this fine, lovely Friday. Hello. Are y'all ready for some more novel reading? To dive back into Savanaclaw? I don't know if I am. It's going to be very interesting to see where this novel continues to go. I'm more so interested in the character bits versus the writing quality. But we'll see. Maybe it gets better. Maybe it doesn't. But how are you all? How is everybody? Did we have good weeks? Did we do good things? Have we been having fun? All of that lovely stuff? I sure hope so. My week's been going all right. I'm quite glad it's finally the weekend. I keep thinking that it's Saturday, and it's not Saturday, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But hello. Oh man. I suppose I should get back on my rock. I suppose that's what we're here for now. Let me start this, so that way hopefully it'll populate. Doing good. Oh, came back from a trip to Palm Springs. Oh, that seems exciting. Fitting with the Savanaclaw. Oh, you went to the desert too. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, that seems like so much fun. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. I hope your trip seems like it went well. And that's a lovely thing. I love trips. I love going places. Traveling is a lovely little hobby of mine. But that sounds great. You live in a desert. Oh, my. So you're Savanaclaw all day, every day. Or a little bit more Scabavia all day, every day. Is that how it goes? Interesting. I do not live in a desert. Not currently. Who knows what the future will bring? Who's to say? But all right. Let me get back on my little rock. And then we can start the novel reading in earnest for this evening. Let me get up there. Here I am. And hopefully the subtitles will continue to work properly. We'll see how all of that goes. But they're going to be, I think, a little bit more funny than perhaps I am going to be in this. Yeah, not a lot of people compared to normal, but you know what? It is a Friday night. Perhaps people have stuff going on, or perhaps people just aren't interested in the novel. It happens. But what you gonna do? My oh my. Also, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. We are just about ready to get started in our lovely little novel. We left off at the end of chapter 4 last time, so we basically just got to find out that Trey is hurt, and now we are going to be investigating the Trey thing, as well as all of the other little bits and pieces that have happened in chapter 5. Ooh, birthday celebrations. Is it your birthday? If it's your birthday, happy birthday. If it's somebody else's birthday, happy birthday to them as well. Yeah, people slowly and steadily are. Am I glad? Good Lord. Am I glad that Trey is hurt? Not particularly. I don't hate Trey in that way. Trey just makes me really uncomfortable. I have issues with Trey, and that's why I don't like him. I don't hate him. I don't wish harm upon him. I just, would rather not hang out with Trey. Is kind of how I feel. But that's awesome. Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's so exciting. Well, I hope your festivities go well. That'll be very, very fun, I'm sure. Birthday plans are always so fun. It's just such a good time. Such a fun time. Alright, well, I suppose we should get started. I suppose that we should probably start off. My. Alright, so chapter 5, after Trey got hurt, we're meeting up with everybody to go and investigate. So let us see what there is to see. Chapter 5. There you are, you, Riddle called when they met in the courtyard, his voice as loud and brisk as ever. Right on time. Thanks for meeting me, Yuya replied nervously, overwhelmed by Riddle's greeting. Well then, let's get right to work. Riddle pulled out his phone and they started looking at it together. Hader had sent a list of several names. At the top were 2 students. And I think it's very important that you all should know that there is a star emoji right before the names Jade and Floyd Leach, brothers. I don't know why that's so funny to me. But the sentence is literally Jade and Floyd Leach, comma, brothers, period. Octavanel dorm, comma, second years, period. Word is they work so well together on the field, other teams don't know how to counter them. Riddle scowled, and Yuya's heart skipped a beat. A deep crease was etched into Riddle's brow. Is something the matter? Yuya asked timidly. These 2 are trouble, Riddle replied, his annoyance clear. Jade Leach and Floyd Leach, twins in their 2nd year, which is information we just got. Jade is the vice house warden of Octavanel and in the same class as I am. He is the picture of superficial politeness and very cunning. Floyd is, well, ... You'll see. Oh, I'm so glad that we're starting off with my 2 of my favorite characters, the Leach twins. Oh, interesting. According to Cater's intel, the pair would be at the sports field right about then. Each dorm was given a set practice time on the field, and this was Octavanel's turn. Yuya and Riddle set out. The main school building was a bit of a walk from the sports field, which was located off Main Street near the front gate and next to the gymnasium. The field's lush grass spread so far in all directions that you had to squint to see the far end. The facilities included a stable for the equestrian club, which is a lovely little detail, and that is all the detail that we get. Man, that's also very funny. All right. Let me say one thing before we get to the field, Riddle said abruptly at the gymnasium, as the gymnasium came into view. Don't call out to Floyd and Jade once we spot them. We'll just watch, all right? If you want to go through this quietly, don't even let them see you accidentally. Oh, man. Oh, all right. Sure. Okie dokie. Yuya wondered if staying hidden was meant to keep word of the situation from spreading. It was also probably to keep people on the list from thinking someone might be trying to hurt them, to keep them frightening them. This caution was conscientious, and Yuya nodded and hid with Riddle behind the gymnasium. See over there? The 2 boys who are taller than everyone else. That's such a funny... Oh gosh, I'm having so much fun, guys. We're like a page and a half in. But good lord, this is so fun. Exactly. Don't even breathe in their direction. Don't. You know what? Maybe we don't even need to check it on them. Maybe we can just assume that they exist and that they're fine, and then we'll move on. Oh man. Oh man. What are the odds that Cater picked Jade and Floyd specifically for our group because he knows that Riddle doesn't like them? I don't know. It would be kind of funny. Anyway, Riddle pointed towards the field. Yuya picked out 2 students in PE uniforms who were a head taller than any of the other players. They were standing close together in quiet discussion. The one on the right is Jade, the one on the left is Floyd, Riddle told him. I know you said they were twins, but they really do look the same, Yuya replied, slightly awed. I can't tell them apart from here. One was holding a broom, while the other waved something small that glinted in the sunlight. Yuya guessed it was a magical pen being used to propel a disc through the air with magic. I can't see anyone suspicious at the moment. No unusual activity with the targets, Riddle said. He dropped his eyes to his phone. We came because they're on the list, but I doubt these 2 really need our protection. Do you mean it's unlikely they'll end up playing in the tournament? Yuya asked. No, Cater's intel is correct. It just seems to me that there aren't too many people who would dare lay a hand on either of them. As Yuya considered what this meant, one of the twins turned their way. They immediately shrank back behind the building, but they were a second too late. Oh-ho, came a loud voice from the grounds. Goldfish, is that you? He spotted us. Riddle looked thoroughly unimpressed. The boy strode briskly towards them on long legs, calling, "What brings you here? Playing hide and seek? You gotta learn to hide better if you're gonna play that game. You got a face that really sticks out." The boy was standing before them in the blink of an eye. Up close, he was so tall, Yuya's eyes nearly popped out of his head. What do you mean? What do you what do you mean? Was Yuya about to go awooga because Floyd is tall? It's more accurate to say that he had to crane his neck to look him in the eyes. Why are our eyes balls popping out of our heads? Oh man. Oh dear. His slender build only made him seem taller. He had turquoise hair with one long black segment. His right eye, peeking out from behind his hair, sparkled a golden color, while his left eye was the pale olive green that looked almost transparent in the sunlight. That's a terrifying description of the eye colors. Interesting. Okay. Both eyes squinted sleepily at Yuya. A smile spread across the boy's lips. "Who's this?" Hello," Yuya stammered, in a cold sweat trickling down his back just from being looked at. He felt like the boy's gaze was swallowing him whole. "It's nice to meet you. I'm a first year." "You? Oh, the kid from Ramshackle Dorm that Krabby was talking about?" The boy's intimidating aura vanished. "Huh. After all the rumors, I wondered what you were like. You seem kind of regular. Disappointing." "Krabby?" Yuya asked. "Yep, Krabby," the boy nodded lazily. "He's in the basketball with me." Yuya didn't understand who the other boy was talking about, and the boy didn't seem interested in explaining. Yuya looked to Riddle for help. "Floyd here is probably talking about Ace," the Hartstable house warden said, sighing heavily. "Ace has mentioned having some trouble during basketball club meetings, and Floyd has the bad habit of giving people strange nicknames." "But you're small and red, so you're Goldfish," Floyd explained. "And Krabby's orange hair sticks out on the side, so he's Krabby. Perfect, yeah?" Yuya could count the number of times Ace had complained about a moody, irrational, very scary upperclassman on the basketball club with him. Was Floyd the upperclassman Ace was talking about? While Riddle and Floyd talked, the other twin, who must be Jade, ambled toward them. Did he amble? Did he really? What a lovely word. Why, if it isn't Riddle and the new student from Ramshackle Dorm? This boy had hair that grew longer over his left side, and his eyes were a mirror of Floyd's, with a golden left eye and a pale olive green right eye. The twins' faces were brilliantly bilaterally symmetrical. All right, what a lovely detail. "It is my great pleasure to meet you. My name is Jade Leach." "Oh," you exclaimed and smiled. "Nice to meet you. I'm you, right? Word spread a while ago. It's an honor to meet the new student who's talk of the school. Let's not be strangers." Jade put a hand to his chest and bowed at the waist. His greeting was extremely polite and his demeanor calm, as opposed to Floyd's sharpness. Yuya heaved a sigh of relief, and Jade grinned at him. "To what do we owe the pleasure, Riddle?" "You? Do you know the details of the Storm's spell drive practices, our top secret confidential information?" Jade put a hand to his chin and raised curious eyebrows, feigning bafflement. Then his smile grew deeper and wider, nearly splitting his face in half. These descriptions are so wild. Oh, I didn't realize that they could do that. No, the book was red for Heartstable, and the book is like the yellowy orange now because it's Savanaclaw. I changed many things. I changed many things with this layout. Ahem. Are you perhaps acting as spies? Quite troubling. Such innocent faces, yet such dangerous actions. No, of course not, Yuya exclaimed. He shook his head vigorously. Jade leaned in closer, the expression on his face unchanged. Well then, may I inquire as to the reason you find yourselves here? His tone remained the height of politeness, but his eyes were no longer smiling. I can't really go into that, Yuya said, but we're not spying. Goodness, Jade's eyes grew wide. The fact that you can't say why you're here makes this all the more suspicious, doesn't it? I might have to report this to the house warden immediately. What? Floyd's arched an eyebrow. These guys up to no good? In that case, I could give him a good squeeze. Squeeze? Yuya shuddered, and Floyd grinned broadly. Yeah, he said. Squeeze. If I just squeezed real hard, well, you'd want to start talking about why you're hiding, I bet. The boys stooped over alongside each other to look down at Yuya and Riddle. Yuya knew they were twins, but he still shivered at how terrifyingly identical they were. It wasn't just their physical appearance, they even had the same air of danger. Floyd and Jade were cold in a way that was frightening precisely because they weren't obviously violent or hurling abuse. I knew it, Riddle shouted angrily, glaring up at the twins and standing between them and Yuya. I highly doubt that anyone would lay a hand on two people as devious as you, because your revenge would be too entirely unpredictable. I think their revenge is actually quite predictable, Riddle. I think their revenge is very, very predictable, and that's why people would not want to mess with them. I think it is precisely because it is predictable. Look at him go. Look at him go. What revenge? Floyd asked, happily twisting the piercing in his right ear. And like, you're making me blush here, my dude. That's some compliment. That was not a compliment, Riddle roared, and Yuya very much understood the sour face Riddle had been pulling, since they had set out that afternoon. Hard-headed Riddle and impulsive Floyd were obviously incompatible. Riddle was working himself into a one-sided fight, much to the amusement of Floyd, who looked like his only goal in life was to annoy Riddle. Don't you ever get tired of huffing and puffing so angrily, Goldfish? Floyd asked languidly. I'm angry because of a certain someone, Riddle glared at him. It seems I'm going to have to teach you a thing or two about manners. Ha ha ha, you're all talk, Floyd sneered. Besides, it wouldn't be any fun to have to go at you now, not when you're weak as a little kitty cat. Did you just call me weak? Riddle's face was growing redder. Is that how I look to you? Well, why don't I show you why you need glasses? Floyd doesn't wear glasses. Neither Floyd nor Jade wear glasses. Why are we saying, well, why don't I show you why you need glasses when neither one of them wears glasses? This seems like it's a line that he's supposed to be saying to Azul. But I don't know. Oh, he's saying his vision is wrong so that they're oh, I see. Got it. So he's saying that he's looking at him. Yeah, it went completely over my head. I was like, they don't wear glasses. What are you talking about, Riddle? Okay. Got it. All right. It's this silly little like Disney Channel like intimidation talk, I think, that is probably gonna be messing with me for a while. But you're right. He's saying like you need glasses because I'm not weak, and you saying that I'm weak and looking at me as if I'm weak, it means you need glasses. Okay, that makes way more sense. Riddle, please don't, Yuya cried. He was about to step between the two boys when Jade blocked his way. Now, the other twin said. He also appeared highly amused by the bickering. How about we let them be? They do seem to be enjoying themselves, after all. Yuya clenched his hands, feeling like a scuffle was about to break out any second. Hoping to derail the escalating argument, Yuya mustered his courage to shout, I'm sorry, you're totally misunderstanding everything. What everything? Floyd asked, staring at Yuya dubiously. Dubiously. Not dubious sleep, no, I had it for a second. Dubious. Lee. That's it, dubiously. Yeah, there we go. Oh, man. Yuya smiled ingratiatingly and bowed several times to both Floyd and Jade, who looked at him with obvious delight. Yuya grabbed Riddle's sleeve and yanked him away from the twins. Let's go, Riddle, he whispered. We don't have time for this. Riddle was silent for a long moment, then nodded. Right, it's a waste of time to remain here. They scurried off the sports field on quick feet, Yuya's heart pounding the whole time. What if Floyd and Jade tried to stop them? But the twins didn't chase after them. Instead of heavy footsteps behind them, all Yuya heard was unsettling laughter. Aw, leaving so soon? You're no fun, Jade laughed. That was a refreshing break, Floyd sneered. For some reason, their voices sounded much closer than they should have, but Yuya could not bring himself to look back. He finally let out a sigh of relief when they came out onto Main Street, the wide road lined with large stone statues of the Great Seven, located in the center of campus. Oh, Floyd and Jade's lines are swapped? Really? Okay, so wait. Oh, yeah, you know what? That does make sense. All leaving so soon that it seems more like a Floyd thing, and then the other one's more of a Jade thing. Gosh darn it. I did think it was weird that it said Jade, but I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe. Nah, you right, yeah. That's stupid. Ay. I guess the translators also thought that they looked the same, and so, therefore. Ay. Looks like we managed to get out of there okay, Yuya said. Thanks for intervening. I didn't mean to get so carried away, Riddle sighed, pushing his hair back grumpily. Those two have been unfathomable to me since first year. Every time I have to deal with them, it's a disaster. Yeah, I get that, Yuya nodded, but he couldn't help being anxious about what Riddle might do next. Kater had said that Riddle was much nicer after experiencing Overblot, and Trey had happily agreed. Clearly, Riddle had changed, but if the Riddle who had just been arguing with Floyd was a softer, gentler Riddle, then how stormy had he been before the Overblot? Yuya couldn't begin to picture it. That's the end of the investigation into Jade and Floyd, Riddle said, pulling out his phone. Let's move on to our next target. Yeah, the novel has a lot of errors, unfortunately. The Heartstable novel didn't seem to have too many, but this one is certainly something. And I feel like they probably rushed it out to give people something interesting between Heartstable anime and Savanaclaw anime, since the Savanaclaw anime is going to be out later this year, likely, maybe, allegedly, probably. But like this isn't it. This is not the quality's not great. But yeah, it seems like the translation has just kind of gone down in quality for both the game and then like for these materials over the past few months. Well, not even the past few months, like the past 6 months. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no idea if the novel has a different translation team, but I think on the whole, like both the game and the novel have been making errors. And it seems to be way more frequent than it used to be. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, and this, like, the way that, I think I ranted about this last time, but the way that this novel is written, the way that they translated it into English is just so, like, the sentence structures are so bizarre. And we're like repeating a lot of information that we've already gotten. It just like slightly differently. And it's a weird time, man. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad that I'm helping you, or that we're helping you with the information for the game and for all the things. Anyway, where was I? End of investigation with Jaden Floyd. Right. Riddle said, pulling out his phone. Let's move on to our next target. And despite his fear of the slender boy before him, Yuya forged ahead and read about the next student on the list. Star. Very, very, very important that there's a star emoji. Yeah, that you all know that the star emoji persists, and that Cater uses star emojis for bullet points. Star emoji, Silver, second year, Diasomnia. His star is shooting into the stratosphere thanks to power plays at odds with his dashing Prince Charming looks! Exclamation point. So next is Diasomnia, then, Riddle muttered. Their players are stuck in Malleus's long shadow, unfortunately, but Silver really does have both power and stamina. I can easily see him being selected to play in the tournament. Do you know him too? Yuya asked. Silver's in the equestrian club with me, Riddle said. He's very diligent about practice, a hard-working student. He could make an even bigger splash, however, if he didn't have a habit of napping. While Riddle didn't neglect to tack on a complaint to his assessment, his feelings were nevertheless warm, the exact opposite of his reaction to the Leech twins. Yuya felt Silver must be quite a serious person. Apparently, Silver worked out daily after school. Riddle said his routine varied, but Silver was most often in the woods behind the school. After they arrived at the woods, Yuya spotted a figure on the other side of some large apple trees. Riddle looked smugly triumphant. Exactly as I anticipated, he said quietly. That's Silver. Yuya looked towards a boy with silver hair who was swinging a sword with single-minded focus. The blade was black and lacked a pointed tip, so it was a practice sword. Yuya heard small birds twittering in the nearby trees. He comes all the way out here to train by himself? Yuya asked. The first year, Sebek Zigvolt often comes with him, Riddle responded. But it looks like he's not here today. Silver and Sebek are in the same dorm and from the same place, and they're also in the same club. They quite frequently spend time with third-year Lilia. They're all from Briar Valley, a land north of here, the same as Malleus. What are you doing down there? An unfamiliar voice said right by Yuya's ear. Okay, hey chat, I'm gonna give you one guess as to who this could possibly be. Who do we think this unfamiliar voice that was said right next to Yu's ear could possibly have been from? I wonder. Oh no, chat disconnected. Oh, okay, now it's connected again. Hello? Are y'all here? Hi? Hello? Lilia. Clearly it's Batman. Okay, alright. See, it seems like we're fine. Seems like chat is back. That was weird. Dracula? It could be. It could be. Who knows? Who knows? Who is to say who this could possibly be? Yuya whirled around and leaped back with a shriek. Gah! Hee. Love that reaction, said a small boy who had approached him from behind on silent feet. Shocking pink streaks stood out in his neatly cut bangs. Even Riddle appeared surprised. He pressed a hand to his chest. "Aw, Lilia," Riddle gasped. "Please don't appear out of nowhere like that." "Sorry, my bad. I was just curious about what you guys were doing," said Lilia, smiling playfully. Yuya felt like he'd seen him somewhere before. Then Yuya remembered. He'd seen the boy at orientation, when he'd also seemingly popped out of thin air and nearly given the head mage a heart attack. Yuya was pretty sure he was the vice house warden of Diasomnia. Yeah, they didn't translate his laugh correctly either, but so it goes. It wasn't the ki-he-he. It is just he-he-he. Very unfortunate there as well. So you're the presence I was feeling, Riddle, Lilia said, still smiling. What are you doing all the way out here? Silver came wandering over, having overheard Yuya's scream. Yuya wondered if they should tell them the truth, or would being honest only cause needless anxiety. Before Yuya spoke, Riddle signaled him with his eyes. No real reason, Riddle said, gesturing with his open palm for Yuya to step forward. We were merely passing by. You wanted to know more about the history of Night Raven College, so he came to me, you see. I was showing him around the woods. Yeah, I'm impressed, Silver replied, looking serious, as he suddenly fell into shadow. Yuya looked up to see a flock of little birds clutching a towel in their beaks. Oh my gosh, that is so adorable! Oh my god, the birds have his workout towel. Oh, that's so cute. Yes, this is different from the game. In the game, you go around with Cater, so it is you, Grim, Cater, Riddle, and I think maybe Ace and Deuce. But you, like, all of you go to everyone. In the novel, it is just with Riddle. So we are just going with Riddle, and the interactions are a bit different because of that. Because I think Floyd wants to squeeze us all, and then Floyd runs after us in the game. Versus here, we just get to walk away scot-free, even though Riddle gets to taunt. Not Riddle. Floyd gets to taunt Riddle. But, like, dang, Silver's got... And, like, this I don't think happens at all. I don't even think we talk to Deosomnia. I don't remember if we do or don't. Because I feel... We definitely do Octavanel, and then we get to see Jack. I don't think we look at Deosomnia, though. I feel like we look at some other people. Don't we, like, also, like, look at Rook? Or something? It's, like, Pomfiore, maybe? But we definitely go to just more than Savanaclaw and Octavanel. But I don't think we go and talk to Deosomnia until we figure out the plot later on. So I think what happened is because in the novel we talk with Vil so early, and Vil got offended by the head mage not, like, you know, tasking the house wardens with this sort of stuff, and you is the one investigating. I think we can't go back to Pomfiore because of that interaction that we had early on that we don't have in the manga or in the game. I think we just talked to the students. I don't think, like, Rook or Vil are there. I think that's probably why we're talking to Deosomnia now. Because they had to fill in the gap. Yes, and then we talked to Scarabia later. This is true. But yeah, okay. So I am remembering correctly. We do look at Rook. Okay, I bet you that's why. I bet you they had to swap the dorms because of that. Where was I? Oh, right. Silver with the birds. Yuya looked up to see a flock of little birds clutching a towel in their beaks. Silver accepted the towel and thanked the birds as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Then he wiped away the sweat on his face. The birds chirped together in response. Was this some kind of magic? Yuya stared, enthralled by the birds and the towel, while Riddle explained how Yuya came to be a Night Raven College student. Huh, Silver said. He turned to Yuya. Rough to be in an unfamiliar place. I'll help. Tell me if you need anything. Silver used few words, but his voice was warm and assured. Just from his interaction with the birds, Yuya could tell that he was a kind person. Thank you so much, Yuya said, offering heartfelt thanks, and Silver nodded deeply. That reminds me, Riddle said, attempting to be casual. Anything new around here recently? I must warn you if there's anything he needs to be careful about. New? Nothing. Oh, no, nothing, Silver replied. They turned to Lilia. Right, Lilia said, but he clearly couldn't think of anything. Then he flashed them a grin. If I had to say, the only thing new is that Malleus is still cranky. Y'all forgot to invite him to the house warden meeting the other day. Lilia uses y'all? I don't remember him saying it in the game at all, but it strikes me as so odd that he's saying y'all. Oh my. A lot of characters use y'all in novels, so that could probably... Yeah, I see. I see. It's just it's so fascinating. My. That was extremely unfortunate, Riddle said, looking uncomfortable. We will be more careful next time. Please do, Lilia said. He might not look it, but he really feels the sting of these things. Malleus? I find that hard to believe, Riddle snorted. I do apologize for having forgotten the invitation, but I highly doubt he is particularly concerned about any other sorcerer. I'm sure he has not so much as a thought about us. I'm sure he has not so much thought about us once. Well, Riddle. About that, Riddle. Hey, buddy boy. Somehow I think Malleus thinks way too much about y'all. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. As Yuya listened, his image of Malleus Draconia expanded in his mind. The more he heard about him, the more he understood he was not some run-of-the-mill guy. He wasn't a mere human, he was a descendant of Fae and the next king of the fairies. The world's leading mage, the lone star and master of the Spell Drive tournament. Both Ace and Deuce had been quick to warn you to avoid Malleus, and this message was so important they still took every opportunity to remind him. What kind of person would be so feared at Night Raven College, a school of sorcerers? Yuya had yet to meet him, and he wondered what terrifying form the boy actually embodied. Not true, Silver argued, shaking his head. Lord Malleus is very sensitive. You'd know that if you ever talked with him. Silver's right, Lilia said. Old Malleus is a comrade from back in the days when we were still living in Briar Valley. I've known him since he was about this high. Lilia motioned like he was popping a pea out of a pod. What? What? What does that mean? What? Is it because he hatched? Since he was like vaguely this shaped in this egg and about this big? That's certainly a way to describe that, I guess. Popping a pea out of a pod. You gotta believe he was clearly attempting a joke since he said Malleus were about... since he and Malleus were about the same age. They were both third years. Lilia was a cheerful, pleasant person, and Yuya smiled at his larger-than-life demeanor, which contrasted with his very small stature. All of you at Diasomnia are really close, huh? Yuya asked. Oh, really are close. I read the sentence wrong. Thank you, Sofer said, smiling faintly. But close would be overstating it. I have the utmost respect for Lord Malleus. It's an honor to be with him outside Briar Valley. Lilia nodded in agreement, as if this was obvious. He gazed at Yuya and Riddle, his expression turning serious. When you think about it, student life is not so easy. People of all sorts of different tribes and classes come together in one hall to live. The reason we manage it so happily is thanks to our house warden Malleus. He's a great leader. If you knew him like we do in Diasomnia, you'd also see that he's not the boy people whisper about. Lilia spoke calmly with a maturity beyond his years, making it hard for Yuya to believe he was only 2 years older than him. His thoughts were quite philosophical and persuasive. Yuya didn't know if the rumors about Malleus were true, but Lilia, at least, regarded Malleus as a good house warden and a good prince. Based on how Lilia and Silver spoke, Malleus seemed to have a lot of charisma. They definitely weren't afraid of him. Yuya felt almost chastised for his negative assumptions and prejudices, and he bowed apologetically. Lilia spun around, smiling, his mouth wide with laughter. But the fact is, he's still not used to human culture, which leads to unexpected trouble from time to time. This is one of his charms, though. Please do forgive him. He slapped Yuya on the back several times. Yuya's head rocked, not rolled. Oh gosh. His head rocked back and forth. The force of Lilia's small hand was greater than expected. Okay, Yuya acknowledged. Should we get going then? Riddle asked. Riddle had retreated slightly, and Yuya looked back, mouthing silently, "Are you sure?" Silver will be all right, Riddle whispered. Then he bowed and spoke to the other two boys. Sorry to have disturbed you. Yuya copied him and lowered his head. Lily and Silver both waved goodbye. Come again any time, Silver said. You're also welcome at Diasomnia, Lilia declared. Yuya offered another bashful goodbye before turning and chasing after Riddle. Which is super funny, too, because Riddle was whispering, but, like, Lilia heard everything. There's no way that Lilia didn't hear everything. Interesting. Also, hello, welcome in. But, I mean, Lilia's too polite to call anybody out on that, but it's also, Lilia has forbidden knowledge now. Yuya kept glancing back as they slipped through the forest of apple trees to return to the open fields. You worried about Silver? Riddle asked. When Yuya nodded, Riddle said calmly, I wouldn't. There's no need. Silver is basically always with Sebek, Lilia, and Malleus. As long as the four of them are together, I doubt anyone would be able to easily lay a hand on them when they're together. I think the possibility of him being a target is extremely low. Oh, Lilia talked about tribes, but I don't think he meant tribes as in there are tribes at the school, but I think he's talking generically about there's people from all sorts of places and all sorts of colors and all sorts of, backgrounds and things of that nature. Where is it at? Where was it just at? People of all sorts of different tribes and classes come together. So I think he's basically just saying, like, different backgrounds, different economic statuses, different cultures. Like, that's sort of how that is going. But yeah, it is an interesting word, I think, for them to be using for that specifically. But they've been making a lot of interesting word choices in this novel so far. Oh, my. Oh, Yuya said. I guess if they're always together, yeah. Yes, we don't have a lot of time left. Let's go check in on our next candidate. Riddle pulled his phone out of his pocket and muttered, one of these days, I'd like to ask Malleus what exactly he thinks is a good house warden is. Okay, Riddle. Sure, buddy. Interesting. Huh? Yuya exclaimed. What's that look for? Riddle looked shocked by Yuya's surprise. Ah, listen. I'm not saying Malleus is a good house warden. He never comes to our important meetings, and he can be rather lax about time. Okay. Reflexively, as they crossed the field, Yuya looked around to check that they were alone. Riddle was the only person he could imagine openly voicing his displeasure with Malleus when there was even the potential for another person to overhear. To Yuya, this perfectly demonstrated Riddle's self-confidence. Everyone else Yuya knew was too afraid. Even Ace, who generally was brutally honest, was on guard when it came to Malleus. But as Vice Housewarden Lilia speaks so highly of him, Riddle continued, and it's clear they have a strong, trusting relationship. Silver also respects Malleus. So, with the way I am now, I think there are areas where I could learn from him. Ah, okay, so that's what it is. It wasn't like a... I had the same reaction as Yuya, like, what are you talking about, Riddle? But he was saying it more so on, like, I wonder what he thinks, I wonder how I could improve, because clearly he's doing something right. Ah, okay, got it. Yuya didn't know what to say. He was shocked to hear Riddle be so introspective and self-critical. Apologies, Riddle said, waving a dismissive hand. I shouldn't have said anything. It's got nothing to do with you. I'm mostly talking to myself. Oh, I mean, Yuya stuttered, letting his words fade into quiet. In public, the Heartstable Housewarden was hard on others and brimmed with self-confidence. Yet here he was, being just as hard on himself, expressing doubts, and admitting to admiring someone else as he tried to become a better version of himself. Which was the real Riddle? Yuya felt like he understood Riddle even less now. He remained silent, afraid he'd make Riddle mad if he said the wrong thing. Riddle looked again at his phone, but before he could read out the name of the next candidate, his phone vibrated briefly. He hummed, peering at the notification. Oh, it's a message from Cater. Cater had apparently gotten hold of some key bit of information, and he wanted everyone to rendezvous at the Hall of Mirrors, and then go together to Savanaclaw dorm. Savanaclaw? Riddle murmured. What's the matter? I was planning to stay on campus for our investigation today, Riddle explained. Savanaclaw dorm is quite large. If we go now, we might not get home until rather late. They needed to use the Hall of Mirrors to travel to Savanaclaw, and visiting that dorm might indeed mean he'd have to return late to Heartsable. Do you have plans later? Yuya asked. Yes, a deep crease wrinkled Riddle's brow again. I must make sure no one is violating Queen of Hearts Rule 346. Croquet must not be played after 5 in the afternoon. Oh, a rule, huh? Yuya's cheeks tightened. For Riddle, the Queen of Hearts rules were regulations to be strictly enforced, even though his dorm members opposed them fiercely. Seeing the look on Yuya's face, Riddle said, Naturally, I intend to be more lenient about enforcing the rules. Unlike before, even if I do find someone in violation, I will merely give them a verbal warning. Unless the violation is quite serious, of course. But I will no longer take anyone's head off straight away. He puffed his chest out in a way that was meant to be reassuring. Apparently, promising not to use his signature spell, Off With Your Head, was an improvement. Yuya nodded awkwardly. To others, Riddle might still appear to be the same stubborn house warden as always. Yuya couldn't really blame anyone for feeling upset with him or criticizing him for not taking more time to atone for the Overblot incident. But now Yuya had seen another side to Riddle as he struggled to be better. All right, I messaged Cater, Riddle said. We're all going to meet up in the Hall of Mirrors. Riddle whirled around, head held high, and Yuya followed. And that is it for Chapter 5. Yeah, I honestly don't understand why they're like, oh, the dorms are so far away. Oh, the dorms are so big. Because I think you can get to them relatively quickly. Like, at least the main dorm buildings. From, like, going through the mirror. It might be, like, maybe a 3-minute walk. Because there has to be some sort of distance between the, like, beginning of the dorm and the dorm itself, since they have those defense systems in place that we get to see in Book 7. So there has to be, like, a certain amount of distance to make that make sense, but it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. But yeah, that was the end of Chapter 5. I stopped a lot to chit-chat, so that is why it took nearly an hour. But you know what? It happens. It happens, man. It happens. But yeah. But this is also part 2. If anyone was confused by that. It says it in the title. I got to updating the thumbnail really late, but this is part 2. So chapters 1 through 4 in the last stream that we did of this. Chapters 5 through whatever we get to will be in this stream of this. So there's that. Oh yeah, Ignihide definitely has those stairs, which is wild because Ignihide has all the introverts that like don't do any sports or don't do anything. Like I know Edia never leaves his room because of things, but like maybe Edia never leaves his room because he'd have to go up and down the stairs. Yeah, to be fair, I did spend a lot of time talking about Jaden Floyd in that section and laughing at the way that they described things, so, you know. True, they do have to get their steps in. But once you're in the dorm, they have elevators, I think, based off of some of the background art, so, like, you know. And they made those stairs on purpose. Yeah, probably. Alrighty, let us go on to chapter 6. I will hopefully be better at reading through this one. Alright, chapter 6. Here we go. When they arrived at the Hall of Mirrors, the other two teams, Cater and Grim and Ace and Deuce, were already there, and the space instantly exploded into chatter. Took you long enough, you, Grim snarled. Yeah, sorry, Yuya apologized, feeling almost relieved to be yelled at by Grim. Well then, I must leave for the rest of today's investigation to you, Riddle said abruptly, as he stepped through the mirror to return to Hartsville Dorm. After Riddle left, Ace and Deuce surrounded Yuya, and Ace peppered Yuya with questions. So, how was it? You and the house warden do okay together? Ace asked, grinning and elbowing Yuya in the side. You maybe get a little taste of how we're pretty much always holding our breath? It wasn't that I was holding my breath, but... Yuya sighed. Okay, to be honest, I was pretty on edge. Deuce nodded, looking serious, and said, I get that. He can be fairly intimidating. So long as you understand, Ace said, strangely satisfied. I can basically picture how it went with you guys. But what happened with you two, Grim and Cater? Make any headway on the investigation? Natch, Cater did exactly what I ordered him to, so the whole thing was a piece of cake, Grim crowed as he put his hands on his hips and tossed his head back. Clearly, Cater had masterfully kept Grim under control, just as Riddle anticipated. They'd probably had a great time checking into their potential targets in the Pomfiore dorm. Oh, okay, so that's what happened. Yes, Grim did use Natch. As in naturally, but shortened. Look, we all appreciate Riddle's diligence, babes? Cater said, laughing. So, hunting season, my mans, where did you get up to? Cater invoked his new nickname for Ace and Deuce. Absolutely nowhere, Ace replied, annoyed. And please stop with the hunting season thing. We went to see that Rook guy from Pomfiore who was on the list, but he totally didn't seem like the contender at all. No? Cater shrugged. Wait, so then why did Cater go to Pomfiore then? But did everybody else just look at everyone else in Pomfiore and we're the only ones that went around? Huh? Interesting, interesting. No, Cater shrugged. You'd be surprised. He's more than just a pretty face. But, well, maybe he's not remarkable enough to be on someone's hit list. Yuya had met Rook at Pomfiore the day before, and he could see how his gentle demeanor might not make him seem like a top competitor. Ace and Deuce had also checked in on several other players, but they had found nothing out of the ordinary with any of them. Yuya reported that his investigation had come up similarly empty. Huh, Cater frowned, but he didn't seem particularly deterred. Me and Grimmy came home without any party favors either, but I did hear some truly hot goss while we were on the case. He winked playfully. Word is, we got ourselves a new king on the scene, Savanaclaw first year Jack Howell. He's new, but he's a big brute of a guy. People are excited about what he can do on the field. I was checking the deets of past Spell Drive tournaments, but of course he wasn't at any of them, so I didn't pin him when I was making my list. But I guess this kid is so good he's off the charts. Jack, Deuce muttered, as if the name rang a bell. You know him, Deuce? Yuya asked. Know him? Deuce frowned. I mean, I've barely spoken to him, but we are in track together. Deuce explained that since most track events are individual competitions, team members don't interact that much. Conversation is minimal. I could totally see him being picked for the Spell Drive team, though. He's a wolf beastman and an amazing athlete. I guess other sports clubs have tried to recruit him, but I heard he hates playing with a team, so he joined track and field. Ah, that's why Jack joined track. I never really knew why. I just assumed that he liked running because, like, dogs run a lot. I kind of forgot that he's also a wolf. And that wolves tend to be, like, the lone wolf thing. Interesting, interesting. I see. All right. Well, anyway. Super tough guy who hates teamwork. Grim rolled his eyes. It sounds like a real party. Well, we can't know until we meet him, so it's time for takeoff. And I think it's very important that you all know that there is a music note emoji right here at the end of the sentence before the exclamation point. Hater said and leapt into the mirror that led to Savanaclaw. The frame around Savanaclaw's mirror was filled with carvings of bones and rocks, making it look intimidating. But Grim stepped into it without the slightest hesitation, so Yuya followed suit. On the other side, Yuya was confronted with a large plain. Yuya knew each dorm building was located off campus, but he was surprised by how much land surrounded the Savanaclaw dorm. Sparse vegetation dotted sandy soil that stretched out so far he almost couldn't see the end of it. Though it looked like a desert, the air was curiously clear and not particularly dry. A gentle breeze carried the invigorating scent of grasslands, like a distant childhood memory. Yuya squinted and saw a river in the distance. Ground he'd thought was nothing but sand was actually covered in golden grass. Cool shadows rippled beneath trees with wide branches reaching toward the horizon. Whoa, Ace cried. They got a spell drive field as part of their dorm? He pointed to a hill and Yuya spotted a circular goal on the roof of a spectator seating. Savanaclaw had their own stadium, which fit their status as top spell drive dorm. There's like some kind of scraggy rock building over there, Grim said, extending a paw in one direction. Yuya narrowed his eyes at the dazzling sunlight. The sky was almost cloudless. Cater shaded his eyes with a hand. That's the Savanaclaw dorm. Wild, right? You can really feel the feral style. Couldn't be less like Heartslable, Ace muttered, his jaw hanging open. The bones of some massive creature surrounded the dorm's entrance, including two large, curving tusks that extended outward, greeting visitors. Maybe they were from an elephant, or perhaps some even larger creature. Whatever they were too intensely powerful to be replicas. Yuya could feel the unmatched valor and pride of Savanaclaw in them, as if they had as if they said unserious people were not welcome. Starting from the front door, the design was on an entirely different level from Heartslable or Pomfiore. Now then, Cater said, glancing around. Wonder where old Jackie Boy's at. I've heard he's always training, even at home in the dorm, Deuce replied, looking around curiously. This was his first time to Savanaclaw, too. Training? Oh ho ho! Cater clapped his hands together. Quite the worker bee, just as rumor would have it. I hope a worker bee is all he is, Deuce said, shaking his head. He's probably on the spell drive field. They couldn't use the sports field today for track and field, so he might be doing some runs there to make up for that. Okay, Cater grinned at them. How about we go take a sneak peek? They climbed the long staircase and headed for the spell drive field. Every little thing at Savanaclaw was large, and the stairs were so wide that Yuya and his friends could easily stand alongside each other as they climbed. Yuya was running out of breath when the field finally opened up before him. Meow, Grim cried. Look at all them muscle heads. The vast grounds were dotted with Savanaclaw students in PE uniforms dripping with sweat, more than Yuya could count. A disc flew back and forth, and a group of brawny students separated by several meters as they practiced catching and throwing. They were entirely engrossed in their training and didn't notice Yuya and his friends. Deucey, is Jack here? Cater asked, his voice hushed. Deuce was about to answer when a small shadow slipped past him. Deluxe ham and cheese sandwich! The shadow roared. Huh? Grim? Don't! Yuya shouted. He quickly tried to stop the monster, but Grim was as quick as a cat hearing a can opener, and neither you nor anyone else could catch him. Why was he charging onto the field shouting the name of a sandwich? Ow, what the? A slim beastman cried as Grim slammed into him. It was Ruggy, the student who traded Grim the Anpan bun in the cafeteria. Huh? Why, if it isn't the little monster from Ramshackle Dorm! Ruggy rubbed his leg as he cocked his head. What are you doing here? My deluxe ham and cheese sandwich, Grim howled. You really pulled a fast one on me. Of all things, you're still holding a grudge about that? You're pretty stubborn, huh? Ruggy snorted with laughter. This world's about survival of the fittest. Not my fault you can't defend your own food. If you're gonna hate someone, hate your own foolish self for letting your lunch be snatched away. What did you say? Grim lashed out, not one to learn a lesson. Oh, you're in for it now, buddy. Coming at me like that. Ah, he sighed, rolling his eyes. Did that idiot forget we're not here about stupid food grudges? Having seen the audacious lunch theft, Yuya understood Grim's anger. But this was not helping their investigation. The other Savanaclaw students, hearing the commotion, began to cluster around them. What's with this small fry? One asked as he reached down to grab Grim by the scruff of the neck. The little monster fled behind Yuya's legs. Hands off, Grim snarled. Wait, are you the ones from Ramshackle Dorm everyone's talking about? A tall student asked, shifting his gaze from Grim to Yuya. This guy's the one who stopped the overblot? And it looks like a couple of them are from Hartslable, huh? Another student chimed in. How come guys from other dorms are on our spell drive field? The students surrounding Yuya and his friends were a mix of human and beast folk. But all of them were built like brick walls, their muscles bulging under t-shirts that were dark yellow, their dorm color. Yuya was average size, and every part of them was twice the size of him. Every part of him. I see. A beastman laughed savagely, revealing sharp fangs and crossing his tree trunk arms. Good God, they wanted you to know that the eels were super tall, but they want you to even more so know that the Savanaclaw guys are ripped. They are ripped to the nines that their arms are the size of tree trunks, guys. Like, they are huge. But they're also supposed to be like, what, 16? I guess you could be. I guess you could be pretty ripped at 16. But tree trunk arms at 16. That seems a little strange. A little too much muscle over there. We're sorry, we didn't mean to intrude, Yuya said. All right, hold on, wait, no. Where's the tree trunks? Where did they go? Ah, you got some nerve marching onto Savanaclaw's field. You think you can just barge onto our turf and walk away without paying the price? We're sorry, we didn't mean to intrude, Yuya said and bowed over and over again. Ruggy shook his head mercilessly. Nope, nuh-uh. You crashed our gates. Too late for apologies. We're gonna need you to settle up for slamming into me there, I almost said it again! They gotta stop putting Ruggy's name next to Rubbed. Ruggy rubbed the leg that Grim had hit and approached them deliberately. Deuce frantically gripped Grim with both hands, clenching them into fists to keep him from lunging forward. The air crackled with tension as a fight brewed. We gotta find a way out of here, Yuya said, his voice trembling. Totally, Ace said, nodding firmly. Yepers, Cater agreed. Deucey and Grimmy look like they're ready to scrap, but our chances of winning this one are, like, less than 0. He looked around, seeking a way out of this jam, and as the Savanaclaw dorm students grumbled. Then Yuya heard a familiar voice. What's all this fuss for? The crowd parted to reveal a boy with small animal ears and tanned skin. It was the tanned... That's a very interesting description, I feel like, for someone of color. But okie dokie. It was the Savanaclaw house warden, the lion beastman Leona. Leona had a track jacket tied loosely around his waist. His long hair was carelessly tied back with a few loose strands plastered with sweat to his sharp cheekbones. Oh man, they're making a mog even in they're making a mog even in this. Dang, the sharp cheekbones, huh? Yuya and Deuce knew Leona from their first encounter with him and Ruggy earlier this month when they were on their way back from Mr. S's mystery shop. Ruggy and Leona had kept Deuce from getting into a fight with other Savanaclaw students. But Ace and Grim had never met Leona, and upon seeing him, they gasped. Their reaction was about more than his sharply angled face and masculine beauty. Man, guys, they really wanted you to know that Jade and Floyd were tall. They also really wanted you to know that the Savanaclaw students are ripped to shreds. But they really, really want you to know that, that Leona is beautiful. They're just straight out saying it. They're just saying, man, oh man. He's got all the angles. Leona had a commanding, even menacing air. Although he was dressed the same as the other Savanaclaw students, all eyes were immediately drawn to him. He had an intimidating presence that took control of a space just by standing there. I see y'all got time for messing around, Leona half growled at his fellow Savanaclaws. You do well to remember you ain't getting picked for the team if you're not gonna practice for real. The sharp light in his eyes caused the dorm students to instantly fall silent. Ruggy alone grinned and trotted over to him. Leona, that's not what it looks like, Ruggy purred. No one's skipping practice here. We just had a small issue come up. He indicated Yuya and his friends with both hands. You see, these guys, they barged in out of nowhere and started picking a fight with us. His gesture was reverent, as if offering up prey, but Leona had no interest in the offering. Leona looked at them indifferently and arched his left eyebrow, part of which was missing due to an old scar. That you, Cater? What are you doing here? Heyo, Leona, Cater grinned and waved. No big thing, really. We just wanted to give you a ping. Perhaps they knew each other because they were third years, Yuya speculated. Leona sniffed and smiled coolly. A ping, huh? Wish I had time for that. Don't have a second to spare, what with practicing for the tournament. Guess you got all the free time in the world, though. Cater snickered at this obvious sarcasm. Seizing the moment, the Savanaclaw students began to argue for fighting. House Warden, these guys totally came to spy on our dorm, one student exclaimed. They came and trashed our turf. We can't just let them walk away, another shouted. How about we teach these outsiders the true terror of Savanaclaw, a third threatened. Blue veins throbbed on students' foreheads. Oh dear. Interesting. Honestly, Leona said with a sigh, bunch of hotheads. Stop yapping like a pack of wild dogs. Leona alone remained calm and collected as his dorm mates grew more heated. He exuded a strange quiet. Even the air around him felt thick, almost stewed. Leona was so cool that a wild hope leapt in Yuya's heart. Maybe he would let them leave unharmed. Then Yuya looked at Cater, whose face was unexpectedly hard despite his playful banter. Is something wrong? Yuya murmured. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, Cater replied, without a glance back at Yuya and the others. Now that Leona stepped onto the scene, we're not going anywhere. Ah, there we go. I knew you were a smart cookie. Makes this easier. Leona bent forward and peered at Cater. Then he looked at Deuce, Ace, Yuya, and Grim in turn before breaking into a smile. What I'm hearing is y'all went and got these fellows all worked up. It ain't like I got anything against you, but it's important to make this clear, don't you think? Gotta draw a line in the sand. Disinterest and tolerance were two different things. Leona had helped out Yuya and Deuce once before, but Yuya realized now that it hadn't been out of kindness. I'd hate for anyone to think of me as a numbskull who lets weak little mouse. Ah, there's a very important A in this sentence, okay? Hold on. I'd hate for anyone to think of me as a numbskull who lets a weak little mousey tickle my nose and run off, Leona said. Maybe he had no interest in Yuya and his friends, but that didn't mean he would overlook a perceived slight. But I mean, we don't have to fight, Yuya said, his voice trembling. If the teachers find out, we could all be disqualified from the spell drive tournament. I know the tournament's important to you. Can't we stop? Fight? Leona's ears stood up. His shoulders shook and he looked shocked. Whoa, hey now, watch your mouth, kid. I was just thinking we could resolve this with a friendly game of spell drive. Spell drive? Yuya said. He and his friends frowned in confusion as the Savanaclaw students snickered, their giggles growing louder like lapping waves. Shee! Ruggy's laughter was a singular sound, enough to cause the air to flee from Yuya's body. Leona, you're so mean. I doubt these weaklings could endure a single game. Hold up, Grim interjected, our Lord and Savior, and also the person that is going to get us damned forever. I'm not taking that lying down. Grim, the great'll knock the lot of you into next week. Grim, you're pretty full of yourself, Deuce said cautiously. But have you ever played Spell Drive? Not once, the monster replied cheerfully. Deuce's shoulders dropped and he grabbed hold of Grim's head and squeezed. So don't go talking like you're some kind of pro. I never played, but those old ghost dudes gave me the rundown. It's all good, we're totally gonna kill it. Grim threw his head back smugly, pleased to get to play Spell Drive at last. Listening to Ace and Deuce talk about practicing, his jealousy had grown out of control. So that all he did now was brag about how he would score in ways they couldn't imagine. With a sour look, Ace shoved his hands into the pockets of his slacks. Okay, this got pretty Fight Club fast, Spell Drive style. Why do I have to be dragged into this? Well, it's true it is sudden, Yuya replied, smiling at Ace. I'm just glad we don't have to actually fight. Savanaclaw were regular Spell Drive winners. While the championship had slipped through their fingers the last couple of years, they were still hard to beat. Well, yeah, I guess there's that, Ace shrugged. I definitely don't want to go toe-to-toe with Savanaclaw in a real fight. And Deuce was about to respond when he and Ace were abruptly enveloped in particles of light, and the school uniforms they'd been wearing changed into their PE uniforms. Yuya had seen this before, and then he realized it was Cater's magic. In fact, Cater had also changed into his own PE uniform and had materialized a broom as well. The Heartstable t-shirts looked good on them. My. Good luck, Cater, Yuya said, and Cater frowned. Luck, yeah. Could use some of that, Cater said, and flashed Yuya a troubled smile that got Yuya's heart racing. Cater? He asked, but the older boy shook his head. We're here now, so no way out but through, he said. Yui, go watch from a safe spot. Since Yuya had no magic, he couldn't play. That left only 4 players on the Heartstable side. Cater, Ace, Deuce, and Grim. The Savanaclaw agreed to use only 4 players, rather than the usual 7 players per team. Oh, isn't that generous? Oh, that's so nice of them. They at least realized that if they didn't... They realized it would be an absolute slaughter if they had mismatched the team amount, so they actually are playing somewhat fair. Wow, what noble gentlemen. Alrighty. The Savanaclaw team comprised Leona, Ruggy, and 2 other students who'd first spoken to Yuya and his friends. The teams also agreed to use modified spell drive rules to account for the smaller teams. To start the game, Team Cater was given the first offensive. Deuce waved his left arm towards Ace. His magical pen, complete with a mage stone, was tucked into the pocket on the left side of his PE uniform, so it was easier for him to use magic by waving his arm. The disc swerved to the right, arcing up far past Ace. Deuce's magic control was, as always, not great. As always. Dang, the shade. Yuya covered his eyes as Ace yelled at Deuce, "Are you trying to throw it to the moon, spaghetti arm?" I can't help it, Deuce protested. The disc is hard to control. The disc was almost snatched by a Savanaclaw student when Cater swooped in and caught it with his magic. Good hustle, Deucey, Cater called. As the only one on their team riding a broom, Cater quickly ascended and kept the captured disc safely above his head. Thinking fast, he tossed the disc hard. Ace was standing on the other end and caught the pass, deftly evading the student guarding him. He was good at teamwork, which Yuya guessed must be thanks to basketball. Oh, Ruggy laughed as he ran towards Ace. You set yourself up in a nice spot first year. It's Ace, Ace shouted back, an edge in his voice. Ruggy made spell drive look so easy. Using the momentum of the catch, Ace charged towards the goal and pointed his fingers to send the disc flying in that direction. "Look at you!" Ruggy exclaimed. "How bold to go for the goal from so far away." Ruggy was right. The disc was decelerating, and its trajectory wobbled into a weak parabola as Ace's magic was absorbed by the disc the farther it got from him. It was happening just like Professor Carell had described in class. A Savanaclaw student got in position to catch the dropping disc. "Not on my watch," Deuce shouted. He stepped out in front of the player. At the same time, Deuce's opponent leapt up to take the disc just as Deuce took to the air, blocking the Savanaclaw student. Flying above the ground, Cater managed to get control of the disc again. Deuce fell down, knocked off his feet by the checking the other player, but he quickly jumped back up. Yuya breathed a sigh of relief. The ramshackle dorm ghosts had said that rough contact was against the rules in Spell Drive, but it seemed that some contact while struggling for control of the disc was accepted, just like in basketball or soccer. This blocking method worked for Deuce, who was physically strong. Cater lowered his broom and tried to pass to Ace again, but just before he did, the disc hovering over the edge of his broom vanished. "I got some serious moves too, human," Grim shouted. He snatched the disc from his teammate, set it hovering above his head, and raced off. Classic Grim. Oh man. "What?" Cater cried out in surprise. The opposing team was equally confused. Caught off guard, the Savanaclaw team chased after the monster, but they were flummoxed as he nimbly darted from side to side. Cater grinned wryly at Grim's surprising good offensive. As befitting a third year, Cater's movements were more efficient, and he was especially adept at flight. His technique helped him outmaneuver a Savanaclaw student in the same aerial position. He shot across the field to provide backup for Grim. "Yes," Ace shouted. The monster was about 10 meters away from the opposing goal. "Go, Grim! Score!" "Stop!" Cater cried, but it was too late. It wasn't a wall of defense that Grim faced, only Leona. "Seriously? You looking down your nose at me?" Leona asked. He turned the palm of his hand upward and closed it into a tight fist. The saucer, shooting towards the goal, froze, captured by Leona's magic. My ultra-hot killer play!" Grim groaned in disbelief. "You actually thought you could score? Gotta respect your optimism," Leona said. He waved a finger at the frozen disc, which cut through the air so fast it was practically invisible. It kicked up a whirlwind as it shot past Grim, Cater, Deuce, and lastly, Ace. "Ow!" Cater yelped and pressed a hand to his ear. Yuya narrowed his eyes. Something red was on Cater's hand. The disc had apparently grazed his ear. Ooh. Oh, there's blood! Oh, there's blood and gore! Oh, he actually got hit with it. Oh, I see. Yuya let out a squeak while Ruggy easily caught the disc Leona had launched. Shee! He laughed. Another perfect Leona pass. Ruggy shot the disc past the goalposts, and a cheer rose from the watching Savanaclaw students. Yuya barely noticed as all the blood drained from his body. "Listen, Leona, sweetheart," Cater said with a pained grin. "Maybe you should take it a little easy?" "Why, that'd be a waste of practice," Leona replied, his tone sickly sweet. "This is where we really get going. Let's all have fun out here." Yuya was afraid to open his eyes to watch the rest of the match, which soon resumed. "Phoo-wee! We're hooped here," Grim snapped at one point. He'd reached for the disc but missed it and tumbled across the ground. From inside the cloud of dust, Yuya could hear wheezing and the snuffling and sniffling of snot. "Ha ha ha! I'm cooked!" The monster panted hoarsely, arms and legs splayed. He was covered in sweat and dirt, battered and bruised. His teammates were in the same state. Deuce was on his knees on the field, huge beads of sweat rolling down his forehead as he pounded on the ground in frustration, shouting, "What even was that formation? There's not a single weak link in their defensive line. Flying or running, they catch up to us in no time flat. We can't even touch the disc." "Haven't gotten a single goal," Ace heaved. He was lying on the ground next to Deuce, trying hard, like Grim, to catch his breath. We don't stand a chance against them. They were really going easy on us at the start. Cater got off his broom, pressed his hands into his knees, and bent over, trying to catch his breath. His back heaved up and down. He looked ready to drop to the ground, but he finally, painfully, pulled himself back up and casually wiped the sweat from his face. Truly on top of your game, Leona, Cater said. No wonder people call you a genius commander. We can't get so much as a hit in against you with this lineup. Team Savanaclaw, led by Leona, was powerfully unified force. The Heartsable team had been thrown together on the fly, and they couldn't even nip their opponent's heels. The inexperienced first years in particular hardly had a chance. Grim and the others had exhausted themselves chasing after the disc, which was always just above their heads. And as each of them weakened, they were skillfully lured away from the rest of their team. As each player was isolated, cut off from their allies, they were toyed with, cat and mouse style, by the Savanaclaw team. Leona and his teammates played Spell Drive like a hunt. There were no wasted movements. Their plays were elegant and merciless. The Savanaclaw players laughed as they surrounded their prey. Still, the teams kept playing, even as the sun descended and long shadows brought the tragic scene into harsh relief. Once again, Grim came into contact with an opposing player, and the monster's small form tumbled across the ground like a bit of fluff blown by the wind. Grim, Yuya shouted. Hey, you okay? And then we have a lovely picture of all of them beaten and bruised and on the ground. Cater really looks worse for wear in this image. Grim looks like an adorable little cat sitting down. Ace doesn't have eyeballs, neither does Deuce. But Cater's like clutching his side and looks like he's in such pain. And like Leona is just standing there. We don't get to see Leona's face. He's looking at Cater. And Ruggy's laughing. It really looks like Cater's been done the dirtiest. And I don't really know exactly how or why. But I mean, if Leona grazed his ears, that's probably they've been just getting beat. For sure. Of course I'm not okay, Grim shouted back. He still had his fighting spirit, but his overweening pre-game confidence was gone. I am the mighty Grim, he panted. You, tag me out. Hey, Ace shouted and staggered to his feet. You were the one who was so gung-ho for this. Watch out, Yuya exclaimed and extended a hand to help Grim up, but he was about to step on the field. Ruggy shoved in front of him. Now, the hyena boy admonished him. No outside interference. You'll have to keep those hands to yourself. But everyone's already on their knees. Can't we? Yuya protested, but Ruggy cut him off. And Ruggy cocked his head to the one side. Obviously, you're going to get tired when you give the game your all. Sports and injuries go hand in hand. But that slam into Grim before, Yuya said, mustering the courage to speak. It looked like it was on purpose. What? Ruggy pressed a hand to his chest in faux outrage. Are you saying it's our fault he fell? Maybe you shouldn't be making false accusations. The player who sent Grim flying also laughed out loud. Yeah, totally. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm helping train the little dude. He ought to be grateful. Curse them, they're laughing at us, Deuce muttered. He spat onto the ground, then he wiped the red-tinged spit from his mouth. Whoa, wait, why is it red-tinged? Is he bleeding? Is he bleeding? Deuce! And formed his hand into a fist. Cater grabbed his arm, admonishing, Listen, my dude, you are playing right into their hands with that. We stick together, safety first. Stay close instead of going after the disc. And that's a good strategy, if you can do that, that is, Leona chuckled, looking down on the frustrated challengers. Come on, herbivores. Lying on the ground's not going to help you win. There was still a fair bit of time left in the game, and Yuya could hardly believe... Yuya had a hard time believing that Cater and the others would be able to keep going until the end. They were already battered beyond submission. This game wasn't just one-sided, it was straight up bullying. Yuya turned towards the field staircase, shouting, I'm gonna go get someone, just hang on. Hey, where do you think you're going? A nearby Savanaclaw student shouted and clamped a hand onto his shoulder, causing Yu to shriek in terror. Surprisingly, however, Leona stopped them. Doesn't matter, he said, his voice gentle as he looked at Yuya. Get whoever you want. I'd love to see who'd actually come. Leona counted on his fingers. Trusted teacher, beloved friend from class, or maybe that ignorant tyrant Hartzell is so proud of. The look on Cater's face instantly changed. Yuya understood that Leona was talking about Riddle. I don't care who it is. Go ahead, bring them, Leona continued. I'm more than happy to explain that we're just having a friendly game. But you know, who can say how heated our little game might get while you're off calling on whoever? Yuya had no response for Leona's obvious threat. No name, no plan, nothing came to mind. He screwed up his face in frustration, then saw he wasn't alone. His friends looked equally aggravated. Leona was right. The Savanaclaw were so incredibly powerful, they were running away with the game. Yuya's teammates were beat up, but there was no way to prove that Savanaclaw was doing anything malicious. Playing hard was part of the game, and Leona knew that. They shouldn't have challenged Savanaclaw so lightly. To be fair, I don't think that they did. I think Grim did, and we all had to fall into line. But the white field shone so brightly, the shadows threatened to burn themselves into Yuya's retinas. A powerful wave of helplessness washed over him. He couldn't use magic, so he couldn't take anyone's place on the field, and he had no authority to stop the game. But he couldn't sit back and watch his friends continue to be mocked and pushed around, engaging in what felt like a fist fight without fists. He took a deep breath and made up his mind. He had to get someone who could stop this before someone got really hurt. Yuya took the hand off his shoulder and started to walk away. The Savanaclaw who grabbed him immediately blocked his way. Again? Yuya thought, squeezing his eyes shut in anticipation of being grabbed again. But nothing happened. Out of the way, a low voice said. A student emerged from the crowd and pushed the other student aside so he could stand in front of Yuya. The beastman was so tall, Yuya had to tilt his head back to see this face. See, why couldn't we say this for Jade and Floyd? Why did we have to have an awooga moment about their height? I don't, like, see? This is what you say when the people are tall. Not our eyes bulge out of our face to see the tallness that they have. His shoulders and chest were broad. His build was larger than any of the other Savanaclaws, and he had a long silver tail that was swung side to side proudly. Ah, Jack! Deuce cried out. Apparently, this muscular student, a beastman with large ears standing at attention, was the same Jack Howell that Yuya and his friends had been looking for. He must have just come to the field. Yuya would have noticed someone so tall much earlier. What's going on here? Jack asked, crossing his arms. He was the very picture of a jock and taller than Leona, Ruggy, and all the other Savanaclaws. His confident air made him even more intense and overpowering. Isn't it obvious? Leona asked, smiling leisurely. We're playing a little spell drive with these trespassers. These guys are total noobs, Jack scowled in disgust. What's fun about tormenting amateurs? Shee! Ruggy laughed mockingly. Look at you, Jack, our little rising star, heroically standing up for the downtrodden. How woefully admirable. I could never be like that. I'm saying this is a disgusting spectacle. I don't want to see it. Jack wasn't looking at Cater or the other visitors. He simply glared at Leona. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut about this totally gross behavior. I've got principles, man. Jeers from his fellow Savanaclaws rained down on him. You got some nerve for a freshman. Who do you think you are? Get out of here, the Savanaclaw student shouted. You look like you looking to get punched in the face or something? Another student taunted. Even as his dormmates piled on, Jack remained cool and collected, locked in a staring contest with the silent Leona. The lion boy's gaze was so cold it made Yuya flinch, but Jack didn't look away. He was solid as a rock as he met Leona's glare. Finally, Leona sighed and shook his head slowly, exasperated. Way to ruin our fun. Don't you know how to mind your own business? Jack merely scowled. Leona shrugged. All right, fine, he said. We'll call it quits with the herbivores. What? Are you sure, Leona? Ruggy asked, then whispered something. Leona waved a dismissive hand. Whatever. Running up the score against these chumps ain't accomplishing a thing. I was only thinking it might be a good way for our guys to blow off some steam. Ruggy and the rest of the Savanaclaw students begrudgingly obeyed their house warden's orders and moved off the field. Now go back to your cute little house before I change my mind, Leona told Cater, and walked off to join Ruggy and the others. Yuya raced over to Cater and his friends as they came off the field. They had cuts and scrapes, but their feet were still firm under them. Yuya looked up and saw that Jack was still looming close by. Thank you very much, Yuya said with a bow. Save it. Jack clicked his tongue with a hard look in his eyes. You guys dug your own graves there. I mean, you got no right to complain if you get smacked down when you come waltzing in here where we're all under pressure like this. Learn your lesson. No more sniffing around Savanaclaw. At Jack's harsh words, Grim leapt up in anger and shouted, Shut up! This is all your fault. I'll have you know some bad dude might be after you, so we dragged ourselves over here to protect you. Protect me? The scowl on Jack's face softened. What? Yuya and his friends looked at each other and nodded. There was no point in hiding the truth. Their mission had already blown up spectacularly. The truth is, Deuce said, a lot of spell drive hopefuls have been hurt in suspicious accidents on campus lately. And we're trying to figure out who's behind it, Ace said. He pointed at Jack. You're up for the team, right? We thought the guy might show, so we wanted to keep watch on you. Accidents? Jack mumbled. He shifted his gaze abruptly. Pretty freaky, huh? Cater said, raising his eyebrows. We want to set up a perimeter for a bit to make sure you don't get hurt, Jackie. What do you say? Will you give us a hand in catching this guy? After a short pause, he said, No. Huh? Ace cried out. Hold up, man. Were you listening? We're just trying to help. I don't need your protection, Jack growled. Get out of here already. But being alone right now could be dangerous, Yuya said. He explained that they wouldn't get in his way, but Jack was firm. I told you I don't need protection. Sick herbivores hurting every time they get scared. Oh, sick of herbivores hurting every time they get scared. He turned and started walking away, muttering, Besides, I'm not going to be a target, probably. Huh? Yuya cocked his head. What's that supposed to mean? Jack headed for the field without responding. Yuya looked at the Savanaclaw students in the distance. They were all huddled around Leona discussing something. Maybe they were strategizing for the tournament. Whatever it was, Yuya had no interest in finding out, not after what his friends had been through. Turned down flat, Cater smiled weakly. Maybe that was too much of a straight shot. Grim looked angry as he grumbled, He sure is rude, jerk. Bad vibes. He's always like that, Deuce said, and gave them a pained smile. Even when the upperclassmen talk to him, all he does is nod. He hardly talks at all. But I didn't realize he was that unfriendly. The strong, silent type seems pretty pig-headed. Snooze and snore, Ace said with a snort of laughter. Then he looked down at himself and slumped forward dejectedly. I'm covered in mud here. How about we just go back to the dorm for today? Yeah, it's getting dark and all. We'll call it a day here. Gator agreed. The exhausted group trudged down the long stairs as they made their way to the Savanaclaw entrance to the Hall of Mirrors. That reminds me, Cater, are you okay? Yuya asked. Cater's ear had stopped bleeding, but Yuya knew it must hurt. He had been shocked at the level of violence during the spell drive match. Maybe you should go to the nurse's room before going back to the dorm? The rest of you should, too. Yui, gotta simmer down, my man. This is just a little scratch, Cater laughed. He said the cuts and bruises were par for the course in spell drive, but that was no comfort to Yuya. All it did was exacerbate his fears of this terrifying game. I'm really sorry, Yuya said. In the end, all I did was watch. No, that was the right call, Cater told him. Even if you had brought back a teacher or whoever, Leona would have wriggled out of it with some choice excuse. In fact, he may have made it seem like it was all our fault. Yeah, Deuce agreed. It wasn't your fault, you. I'm frustrated with myself for not being able to do anything. Those plays were borderline illegal. I'll definitely have to thank them for that. Give it up, Ace punched Deuce in the shoulder. Ow, Deuce glared at him. What was that for? How come you and Grim are always itching to throw hands, Ace demanded. You both have such one-track minds. Think for 5 seconds before you go picking a fight with some scary dude. Don't lump me in with Grim, Deuce protested. That's right there, Grim chimed in. Don't put me in with the same box as this Deuce loser. The mighty Grim is way cooler. Neither of you realize you're the same? Ace asked incredulously. Check the epic eye-rolling you's doing. Can't blame you, still have to have it in you to mess around, Cater said, flashing an exhausted smile. You freshmen really are fresh, huh? For once, though, Yuya was relieved by everyone bickering like normal. Once they got to the Hall of Mirrors, they made a promise to meet again the next day, and then they said their goodbyes. How about we head back to Ramshackle Dorm, Yuya said, looking down at Grim. Sure, the monster replied, but with none of his usual spirit. Once they arrived outside their dorm, Yuya asked Grim if he was sore from the game, but Grim shook his head. Ah, he sighed as he walked past Yuya along the lonely path to Diasomnia. Good lord, guys. It says Ramshackle. My brain not keeping up with the words. It doesn't say Diasomnia. It does in fact say Ramshackle. I can't read, apparently. That's on me. Ah, he sighed as he walked ahead of Yuya along the lonely path to Ramshackle Dorm. I figured I'd make so many cool plays. Spell Drive's not half as fun as I thought it'd be. His shoulders were slumped in the gloom as he sulked. The path had few lights, so they were forced to rely on the fading light of the evening sky as they returned home. Yuya patted Grim on the head. I'm pretty sure that game was an exception. I bet you'll have way more fun if you get to play in the actual tournament. You think? Grim craned his neck upward. Okay, I'll bite. I'm gonna practice with them old ghosts till I get so good as I can beat those jerks. Yuya saw a faint glow through the gaps in the thick trees. It was the clouded glass gate lamp showing the way to Ramshackle Dorm. The weathered light was dazzlingly beautiful, and seeing it, Yuya felt deep relief in his heart. The sun had set, the outsiders were gone, and the Savanaclaw team practice was over, even though bright lights still illuminated the field. Jack Howell got ready to leave, scowling, simmering with an unpleasant irritation. He considered himself an honest person. He still had plenty to learn, in life and sport, but he always worked hard to earn his accomplishments. He played fair and never did anything cowardly, which was why those students from the other dorms stuck in his heart like a small thorn. They were genuinely worried he might be attacked, and while he hadn't lied to them, he couldn't say he'd been completely honest, or that he had nothing to be ashamed of. Leona and Ruggy were nearby discussing something. Feeling Jack's gaze, Leona abruptly turned, narrowed his eyes, and demanded, "What's that look for?" Upon hearing Leona's voice, Ruggy and the rest of the Savanaclaw students turned to glare at Jack, too. They were an obedient pack, moving like a single creature. They were vigilant, ready to defend or attack the moment their leader gave the order. Leona scowled. Don't care much for that attitude, kid. I'm an upperclassman. Before I let that cheeky mouth of yours slide, since you're just a baby. Before, I'd let that cheeky mouth of yours slide, since you're just a baby, period. It'd be a real shame if you didn't appreciate how nice I'm being. The lion's gaze was almost painful, and Jack realized that he was at odds with his own pack, because their leader didn't seem to share his principles. I want to know why, Jack said through clenched teeth, pushing back his emotions. Why are you doing this? Leona shrugged. Haven't got a clue what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Jack howled, and the beast folk around him started growling, one after another. Jack was exceptionally strong, but he didn't stand a chance of beating the entire pack. By this, do you mean our enthusiastic preparation for the tournament? Leona asked, affecting a bored tone. Jack was silent, and Leona continued without expression. The answer is simple. For 2 years now, in a row, we have gone up against Malleus Diasomnia team in round 1 of the tournament, and we were eliminated both times. People said we were the next champs, but Malleus ran circles around us like we were still in diapers. What do you think happened because of that? The upperclassmen scowled at the memory. Jack understood how humiliating those defeats were. He didn't need it explained. The Pro League recruiters and major corporations scouted exactly 0 Savanaclaw students, Leona said. Graduates with the whole world at their feet had the door slammed shut on them. I mean, that was, Jack stammered. We weren't good enough then. You're right about that, Leona agreed. His smile at Jack like he'd given the correct answer. So you get it. It's just like you say. Last year and the year before, we didn't give the tournament our all. We didn't pull out all the stops. Then he spat out. Only a total moron would have thought we could take on a monster like Malleus fair and square. Jack hated this attitude of Leona's, that he would give up on playing fair and resort to cheating. Jack shouted empathetically, "You're wrong! If you got serious about playing, we could be a threat to Deosomnia. I saw the way you played when you were a first year. I'll never forget it." When Jack was younger, he'd been utterly captivated watching Night Raven College's Spell Drive tournament on TV. Savanaclaw had crushed every other house with their impressive teamwork, and one player in particular held Jack's attention. Judgment, speed, technique. That player had excelled in every way, and Jack had understood that the team had coalesced with him at their core. That had been Leona Kingscholar, a first-year student at the college. So this is the kind of player Night Raven College gets, young Jack thought to himself. Jack had recorded the tournament and watched it over and over and over again. How would he have taken on Leona if he'd been on the opposing team? How would he have fought by Leona's side if he had been on the same team? It was thrilling to think about. The following year, a talented individual by the name of Malleus Draconia came to the college. He'd gotten a lot of attention before the tournament had even started, and just as expected, he had shut everyone else down. Jack watched as the Savanaclaw team was mercilessly trumped, but that didn't lower his regard for the Savanaclaw. In fact, he felt his passion for them grow even stronger. He was deeply moved by the way Savanaclaw fought with all their might, even facing such tremendous competition. True, afterward, all anyone talked about was Malleus. No other player came close to making the same impression. Even so, Jack saw the dignity and magnificence of Savanaclaw as they stood up against such a powerful opponent and expanded every effort to win. From the perspective of teamwork, Savanaclaw, with Leona as their leader, had been superior. Jack had felt overwhelming pride well up inside at the sight of Leona howling in frustration over losing. He wanted to fight alongside such a strong player. "The way you played was totally amazing," Jack cried. "That's why I—" "What do you know about anything, Frosh?" Leona roared, cutting him off. A shiver of tension raced through everyone present. Every creature shrank at the lion's roar. Even Ruggy, Leona's right-hand man, gasped. "You want me to get serious about playing? Ha!" The lion boy snorted in laughter. "Now you're the one who's naive. Wouldn't change a thing." Leona's anger was intense, and Jack found it painful to bear the brunt of it. Leona was eternally cynical, deflecting almost everything with sarcasm, and this sudden fierceness This fierceness made sweat trickle down Jack's back. "Getting serious isn't what's important," Leona snarled. Results are. Results are everything." Jack nearly retreated, but he steeled himself and held his ground. Staring at Leona, he shook his head slowly and said, "No. Doing something as cowardly as that is just plain wrong." When he'd been accepted to Night Raven College, Jack felt like it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. He figured he wouldn't have the chance to play in the Interdorm tournament with Leona because of their age difference. But it turned out that Leona had been held back a year, so Jack would be able to play with his idol. He'd been able to fight alongside him. This was the reason Jack had trained so intently to make the team ever since he started at Night Raven College. No, since even before then. And yet, what was Leona now? "Wrong," Leona said, his voice hard. "I'm doing this for you and your dorm mates." Jack could hear Leona fall back into his usual sardonic tone. He actually preferred it when the lion was angry. This Leona didn't even face his own anger anymore. He was lazy and cowardly, clinging to a need for security. Jack couldn't help but grit his teeth. "If you're really thinking about us, then let us get in there and play for real," he demanded. "I mean, I could fight. We could maybe even beat Deosomnia this year." "Doesn't matter if we're good enough to go pro," Leona told him. "The second Malleus steps onto the field, no one else gets a chance to even show off their skills. That's why we had 0 scouts come knocking on Savanaclaw's door last year. Is moral superiority gonna crush a guy like that? You want to go and ruin the futures of everyone in this dorm?" So then, Jack bit his lip. So then, Jack thought, they should throw everything they had into the fight against Malleus. Jack realized they were going in circles. He wasn't going to convince Leona. After all, this guy did nothing but think up excuses. I'm not the kind of useless king who'd let his pack starve, Leona said finally. Jack felt knocked to the floor. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand how Leona could be so angry for a win and yet give up on everything else at the same time. His desires were contradictory, polar opposites. It didn't make any sense, but Leona didn't want to examine his feelings. Or maybe he didn't even realize there was anything wrong. It was funny. Jack felt like he'd been thrust into the real world. He'd pinned all his hopes and desires on what turned out to be an illusion. Jack would never accept this spineless wimp as his leader. With a mix of sadness and anger, Jack clenched his fists and silently returned to the dorm. He wasn't going to be disappointed by any more dreams. Stupid Frosh running his mouth off, Reggie cursed bitterly in his heart. Leona was in a very bad mood now, and all because of that know-nothing first year and his cheap sense of justice. The lion's anger was an almost palpable threat, and the other Savanaclaw students very quietly stepped back so that his displeasure wasn't turned on them. Jack had simply walked off, leaving a storm behind. That boy could be a problem, Ruggy said, plastering a bright smile onto his face and rubbing his hands. You want me to take care of him? No, don't. Leona waved a perfunctory hand. He ain't got a shred of proof. He can go and blab all he wants, but it won't get him anywhere. Besides, that'd be a terrible waste of talent. Just make sure you keep an eye on him. Had Reggie played his cards wrong? Leona's tone was cold and unreadable. Was he disgusted with Reggie, like he didn't know what he was doing? Big payoffs demanded big risks, though. Reggie was prepared to court a certain amount of danger. That makes sense, Reggie said, making his voice cheery and nodding agreeably. Of course you'd have a handle on it, Leona. We'll put the cheeky first year aside for the moment. I'll go take care of another piece of business tonight. Yeah, the lion replied slowly. Always there when I need you, Ruggy. Ruggy was flooded with relief. Oh, it's a pleasure to be of service to you, Leona. You always say that, don't you? Leona said with a glance. Even though you're really doing this for yourself? Ruggy froze, unsure of what to say. This unexpected shot was too on target to deny. Had Reggie sucked up to Leona too much and too obviously? Leona's eyes were as icy as ever. Reggie felt his palms grow clammy with cold sweat. Perish the thought, Reggie said, choosing his words carefully. Like everyone else in the dorm, I want to turn this world upside down and destroy all the people who dare look down their noses at Savanaclaw. That's more like it. Leona clicked his tongue in irritation, and the dorm's students visibly flinched. Behind his smile, Ruggy thought this behavior was unusual for Leona. However, he acted and spoke. Leona was relatively easygoing for the most part. He bordered on apathetic, in fact. It was very unlike him to waste his energy stewing in anger. That stupid Frosh. Sounds like my idiot older brother. Ooh. Leona grumbled. Aha, yeah, so we're projecting onto Jack now as well. Interesting, okay. Hearing this, Ruggy decided it was time to be somewhere else. Immediately, he knew better than than to say anything that might deliberately step on the lion's tail. Yep. Yeah, the problem with Leona, what Leona is doing is that Leona seems to want to be the person that takes Malleus out, which is... But he's doing it in a way that is completely contradictory to everything that he said prior to the kiddos at the house warden meeting. Like, Leona is taking Malleus out the exact same way that Crowley was going to take him out, but he wants to do it himself. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of projection that he puts onto Malleus about his brother. And I think part of it, too, is wanting to kind of get back at the world a little bit, probably, for not recognizing Savanaclaw's talent in such an unbalanced and unfair situation, being Malleus, of all people. Like, the fact that the scouts were like, none of you guys are worthwhile because you couldn't take on the top, like, number 3 mage in the entire world, and even his teammates didn't play and did not lift a finger. But you guys not being able to deal with that just makes you unviable, is completely unfair and kind of wild. But I think the way that Leon is going about it is completely wrong. And it's gonna still cause problems for all of the people that are involved still, which is, you know, not great, but there's like an element of his own pride within all of this, I think, and within his projections of like Felina onto Malleus, or like within aspects of Malleus and things like that as well. Yeah, he's going about it the wrong way, because there was already an option, but he didn't want to. He wants petty revenge. And he's effectively doing exactly what that peaceful option was doing anyway, which makes all of his stuff feel very counterintuitive. Oh, man. All right. Something was moving in the gloom. Animals. A lot of them, marching in step with one another. No hesitation as they advanced eagerly, eyes focused on a singular point ahead. On the next page, we have Scar sitting on his little stone as he looks at all the hyenas that are looking at him and marching. And Scar said, "And then I will be king." And then Banzai says, "All right, long live the king." And then all the hyenas go, "Long live the king." And then Scar goes, "I've got fangs and courage that none can match. So be prepared. The world is about to be turned upside down. A shining new era is tiptoeing nearer. And where do we feature? Just listen to teacher." We're going to take out Mufasa and his son. That's so fun. Isn't that exciting? And that is the end of chapter 6. So we are now on to chapter 7. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. It's not about getting Malleus out as much as it is giving him an outlet for all his deep-rooted self-loathing. And that a part of that is also his hatred for Felina and for all of those sorts of things, which has to do, again, with his projecting of those things onto Malleus, given the similarities between Malleus and Felina. So there is that element as well. And then he also gets to fight a whole bunch of other people, because he gets to have Ruggy hurt everybody else at the same time, which is so fun. So fun. But all right, we're on to chapter 7. I feel like we're making pretty good progress. We're making pretty good pace. I don't know if these chapters are any longer or if I just keep yapping more, but we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. On to chapter 7 now. My, oh my. You awakened when the night was at its deepest, his muscles screaming in pain. The simple act of rolling over had set his arms and legs on fire. He'd definitely overdone it practicing spell drive with Grim after they got back to Ramshackle Dorm. He heard a muffled voice and saw Grim wrapped up in all the blankets, talking in his sleep. Did you see that? Totally wrecked him with my power shot. He had to be dreaming about the game they'd played with the ghost before going to bed. You gotta have control. You can't just toss it willy-nilly. Once you got the disc, everyone on the field's gonna come after you with magic, so you gotta keep an eye out. The ghost had offered one tip after another until Grim was hard-pressed to keep up. When Yuya told him that he was actually getting better bit by bit, the monster had grinned and said that's 'cause Grim the Great's got real talent. In the end, even the ghosts had to admit that Grim was doing pretty good for a beginner, which seemed to satisfy him. Now, thanks to all the work and praise, he was fast asleep and drooling happily. His terrible first impression of spell drive seemed to be completely forgotten. Right, spell drive. A fresh terror rose up within Yuya. He squeezed his eyes shut to make it go away. Tomorrow would arrive soon, and to be ready, he really needed to get back to sleep. But no matter how long he lay in bed, sleep would not come. Quite the opposite, in fact. His increasing panic about spell drive was making him feel more and more alert. Realizing that his fidgeting and squirming would probably wake up Grim, Yuya sat up. Some outside air might calm his nerves. He got out of bed, pulled on a thin cardigan over his pajamas, and took slow, careful steps to avoid making the floor creak. Passing down the hallway, he noticed that the ghosts weren't in the lounge. They were probably somewhere else on the campus enjoying the night with the other ghosts, like always. He quietly opened the front door. The light of the moon bleeding through the thin clouds made him gasp, and the breeze carried the melancholy scent of autumnal plants fading into decay and the earthy creatures preparing for winter. He nearly tripped. Even though the moon was out, he could barely see his feet. The shadow of the dorm building deepened the gloom of the night. Slipping through the darkness on quick feet to reach a more visible part of the path, he sighed and looked up at the massive, imposing, ramshackle dorm, its newly replaced storm shutters glinting in the moonlight. Yuya felt a complicated mix of emotions. He had had such fun and been so happy when repairing the shutters with his friends. Ramshackle Dorm was more livable than ever, but for some reason, this felt like a sign that he would never leave Twisted Wonderland. Every time he saw Head Mage Crowley, Yuya anticipated news that he'd at last found a way for Yuya to return to his home world. Each time, he was painfully disappointed when Crowley said, "I don't have any new information." When would there be some progress? What would he do if he was stuck here forever? Lately, he'd stopped asking about home. Thinking about the future only made him anxious, especially at times like this when he was alone with his thoughts. Yuya closed his eyes, replaying the events of Savanaclaw earlier that day. Leona's cruel voice echoed in his ears. In certain ways, he'd changed. The old Yuya, before meeting Grim, Ace, and Deuce, before arriving in Twisted Wonderland, would never have been able to watch that fight or found the courage to try and stop it. "I gotta stop this," Yuya muttered. He sat down on the steps that led to the gate and curled into himself. When he was alone, he couldn't keep his mind from turning obsessively to every single scary thing that had or might happen. Life was filled with so many terrifying possibilities. Trying to think of anything else, he looked up at the night sky. As the clouds rolled by, one particularly thick cloud obscured the moon. "Who's that over there?" came a voice from the darkness. "Ah!" Yuya shrieked. He leapt to his feet and immediately fell onto his backside. He scowled and rubbed his tailbone. "Ow." You do not sound like a ghost," the voice said. "A child of man, are you?" Yuya sought out the speaker, but it was too dark to see. The voice sounded close, perhaps near the gate at the bottom of the stairs. "What are you doing here?" the voice asked. The darkness itself seemed to be speaking. The tone was low and rich, handsomely masculine. Though not exactly gentle, the voice had a strangely calming effect. "I couldn't sleep," Yuya admitted, "so I stepped out for a minute." After a short pause, the voice asked, "Out? Do you live here? I was under the impression that this dorm was abandoned. I quite enjoy coming here. It's a place where I can revel in the peace of solitude. But now I see... ... People live here." The voice sounded sad. Yuya was pretty sure the darkness hid both of them, but he bowed anyway. "Yes," he said, "I moved into the dorm. My name is Yuya Kuroki." "Yuya," the voice seemed to mull this over. "Oh, are you the one they call you?" "You've heard of me?" Yuya asked, surprised. Then he remembered that it was hard to find anyone at the school who hadn't heard of Yuya and Grim by now. "Who are you?" Yuya asked. "A student, or are you a teacher?" Yuya felt uneasy when the person did not immediately respond. Yuya still couldn't see who was talking in the pitch black. Had he asked something rude? "I'm sorry," Yuya said apologetically. "It's dark, so I can't really see." The squeal of metal tickled his eardrum, and the rusty gate opened, and then the tack-tack of feet and on the short stairs stopped a few paces in front of him. Yuya narrowed his eyes and squinted hard just as the moon partially emerged from the clouds and the area grew a little brighter. Standing halfway up the stairs was a boy in a Night Raven college uniform. So he was a student. Yuya had expected as much. The long black of his cloak was rich and inkier than the night. Descending from his collar, it stood out even in the gloom. When Yuya noticed that the boy had 2 black horns on his head, which extended out of his hair, Yuya couldn't help staring. The horns curved gently backward over the boy's finely shaped head. They were big enough to give him pause. Yuya lowered his gaze to find the boy staring back at him. Yuya quickly turned aside and looked away. The boy, no doubt, didn't enjoy people staring unabashedly at what was probably an ordinary, if prominent, feature on his body. Yuya had probably insulted him by mistake. Was the boy a member of some beast tribe? To Yuya, his horns looked like they belonged on a mountain goat. Having horns might not have been unusual in Twisted Wonderland, but Yuya was still shocked whenever he saw something that was impossible in his world. He said to the boy with the friendliest voice he could muster, it's nice to meet you. Are you an upperclassman? The boy's eyes opened wide as if caught off guard. Could it be that you do not know who I am? He asked. Nope, Yuya shook his head. Well, this is unusual. The boy looked amazed, and the corner of his mouth slid up into a smile. With another gasp, Yuya noticed his pale lips were bloodless, colorless. His skin was waxy and pale, and he had shining lime green eyes. Yuya wondered if even the boy's blood was an unusual color, which is a kind of a weird thing, I think, to perhaps think about a person that you've just met. I mean, I'm a vampire, so I'm interested in the blood, but it does come off even to me as like, why are we thinking about the color of this stranger's blood? Like that, that's a very odd thing, perhaps. And then on the next page, we have a lovely picture of Malleus looking gorgeous as always. We're kind of looking up at him a little bit. We can see the trees in the background, and we can see some of like the little shiny bits from his little fairy things that happen when he teleports. But he's kind of like looking on the side of his eyes down at us. It's mostly a profile-based image from here, from like the waist up, more or less. And then the story continues on the next page. The boy's smile lingered, then he sighed as though satisfied. There are some pleasures in this world. My name is... He cut himself off. No, never mind. Out of respect for your unworldliness, I will permit you to call me by a name of your choosing. Yuya was flummoxed by this unexpected offer. He definitely wasn't comfortable bestowing a nickname on a person that he'd only just met, but wondering about the color of their blood was an entirely normal thing. I'd hate to be accidentally rude, he said. So if you could tell me, I am saying you are welcome to do so. Did you not hear me? A sudden sharp chill hit Yuya's skin. The darkness of night, until that moment soft and gentle, now squeezed around him, thorny and tense. He couldn't so much as move a fingertip. His heart pounded. He was overcome with such terror he nearly forgot himself. An instinctive alarm held him fast, body and soul. He could not, must not, disobey this person. Then the night seemed to ease, becoming thinner somehow. Yuya took a deep breath and nodded his head over and over. He had apparently forgotten to breathe. His heart threatened to burst out of his chest. The boy grew cheerier and smiled elegantly once more. Why? Because Yuya hadn't resisted him? The boy looked towards Ramshackle Dorm. It is unfortunate, he said slowly. If you have taken up residence here, then this abandoned dorm is no longer abandoned. I guess not, Yuya stammered. I shall have to find another ruin for my nocturnal constitutionals. Farewell. The boy vanished without waiting for a response. Perhaps he used magic. His form simply melted into thin air. Yuya could see tiny particles of light where the boy had been, but when he blinked, these too disappeared. All that remained was night. I didn't sleep a wink after that. I guess I was just too freaked out. The next morning, as he had gotten ready for school, Yuya told Grim about what had happened the night before, and the monster snorted a laugh. Heh, you're always jumping at shadows, you. Sitting on the bed, Grim yawned, his mouth opening wide enough to swallow Yuya's head. Unlike Yuya, he didn't have to wash his face and had no need to change clothes, so he was always ready for the day. I mean, so what? Some weirdo in an outfit in the middle of the night? What's so scary about that? The ghosts are way scarier. Yeah, I mean, I know, Yuya agreed. They left the bedroom and headed downstairs. But like, I've never seen anyone with horns before, and I was surprised. Grim turned and looked up at Yuya. Did this dude have a name? He wouldn't tell me, Yuya replied with a shrug. He said I should call him what I want. Judging from his armband colors, I'm guessing he's from Diasomnia, though. The yellowish-green... It's just lime green. It's not a I mean, I guess lime green's a yellowish green, but can we just say lime green? Like, it's really just, it is quite literally like a neon green. Why are we calling it yellow green? The yellow-green band with the black line matched the Diasomnia dorm colors that Lilia and Silver wore. Yuya thought it made sense that a student that intense would be a member of the dorm ruled by the infamous Malleus Draconia. So we have no idea who he is. Too bad. I want to see a guy with horns too, Grim asked. Anything else about him stick out? Yuya was stumped. He couldn't find the right words to describe the boy that he met. He wasn't obviously handsome like Leona or Vil, but his features were otherworldly. His almond-shaped eyes were burned into Yuya's brain. It was more than that he had a singular aura, a distinct and unique vibe. Full of impatience as Yuya struggled to speak, Grim said, "Well, whatevs. If you don't know his name, we'll just call the guy Hornton." Yuya's eyes widened. Hornton? That sounds like some kind of random name. I'm pretty sure he'd hate being called Hornton. He said you can call him whatever you want, yeah? So, who cares? He's got no right to complain. Well, yeah, I guess. Yuya frowned dubiously. "You'll let me know the next time you see Hornton," Grim said dismissively, as if he was suddenly bored and didn't care. "I'll make sure he gets the message that Ramshackle Dorm ain't no ruins." "You only say that because you've never met Hornton," Yuya slumped, the encounter still troubling him. But he smiled to realize that the nickname, Hornton, had slipped from his mouth. Talking to Grim had actually calmed his nerves a little. Unlike Grim, though, Yuya didn't want to see the boy again, and he was pretty sure that he wouldn't. The school was big, and he had no time for anyone or anything beyond his classes, his classmates, and their spell drive investigation. So as long as Hornton didn't come looking for him, they'd never meet, and he wouldn't have a chance to call him by that rude nickname. Grim had given him. "Come on, we gotta get to class," Grim urged. Then he and Yuya left Ramshackle Dorm. Oh boy, you Grim. "Morning," said Ace. "Morning," Deuce echoed. "Hey guys," Yuya replied. Deuce and Ace were in their seats in front of Yuya, but they both seemed kind of low energy. Maybe they were still tired from the day before. "Did you talk to Riddle after we left you yesterday?" Yuya asked. He wanted to know what Riddle said when his friends reported back to their house warden about the results of their investigation. "Yeah," Ace scowled, propping his chin in his hands. "We told him about what happened with Jack Howell. This jerk blabbed everything." He jabbed an apologetic-looking Deuce. "And the second Riddle heard we got our butts kicked by Savanaclaw, he was furious, making his dorm look bad, etc., etc." Face went beet red again. "I didn't think he'd be that angry," Deuce said, rubbing his arm. "He was all, 'How dare they land a hand on my dorm students?' He looked about ready to roll up on Savanaclaw right that second." "Oh, wow. He didn't do it, did he?" Cater stopped him. "Of course," Deuce said. "Yep, business as usual," Ace shrugged. "Go home exhausted to deal with another blow-up?" And Cater just laughed it off. I mean, come on. "All that Grump did is flip his lid," Grim said, rolling his eyes. But Yuya didn't agree. He remembered what Riddle had said after they had talked to Lilia and Silver from Diasomnia the day before, about how he had things to learn from Malleus about being a better house warden. "I think he was worried about the three of you," Yuya said. Ace raised an eyebrow dramatically and waved a dismissive hand in front of his face, while Deuce offered a pained smile. "The house warden? No way," Deuce said. "If he was, he'd at least asked if we were okay before he got mad at us." Yeah, Deuce does have a point, but also Riddle's trying. He's trying. What made a good house warden, Yuya wondered. Ace and Deuce seemed to think Riddle had gotten angry for the sake of his pride, but Yuya didn't think he would put his pride above the welfare of his dorm mates, given what he'd said before. Yuya fell silent and Ace frowned. "Hey," Ace said, "we're gonna strategize at lunch today, so make sure you and Grim don't run off anywhere. You gotta come, okay? I know Riddle can hold a grudge, but even he can't stay angry this long. You don't need to be freaked out." "The great Grim's not freaked out by that shrimp," the monster interjected. Yuya opened his mouth to explain to Ace. Wait, that's right. Wait, hold on. Thank you, Grim. We didn't get... Floyd didn't call us Shrimpy. Floyd didn't give us a nickname. Oh, wait. I thought that's the time that Floyd... Does Floyd give us the nickname in book 2, or does he give us the nickname in book 3? I can't remember in the game if he does, but I feel like he gives it to us in book 2 because he's like, oh, you know, I call Riddle Goldfish because goldfishy. I call this person this because this. I'm gonna call you Shrimp because you're a shrimp. I think that happens in book 2. I could be misremembering, and maybe he does it in book 3. I don't know. But Grim saying shrimp active, I was like, oh my goodness, but he didn't call us a shrimp yet. It could be in book 3. It could be like, oh yeah, you're the guys that stalked us. I'm gonna call you a shrimp now. I don't remember when it happens. Maybe it is book 3. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Yuya opened his mouth to explain to Ace and Deuce what Riddle had said to him the day before, but immediately abandoned the idea. No matter how Yuya worded it, Riddle might not want him sharing what he said to him in private. Yeah, we'll be there, Yuya agreed. Great, so then we'll meet in the cafeteria at lunch, Deuce said with a smile. Then he turned around and got ready for first period. After homeroom, they had magic history, and the pre-class prep was a must. Ah, it is book 3. Okay, thank you. All right, so then Floyd wouldn't have called us shrimp. Then that would not have been a thing earlier in the book. Okay, all right. Fair is fair. Professor Train was strict and his lectures difficult, no matter what subject he was teaching. Whoa, he snorted at Deuce's diligence. Look at you getting the jump on us. For all the good it seems to do you. Shut up, Deuce said mildly. If you feel like I'm getting the jump on you, you could prep too, Ace. Nah, I hate memorizing stuff. Yeah, totally, Grim said, nodding. He leaned back in his seat, not even thinking about opening his textbook. Same. A nearby Heartstable student looked at him and said, Hey, Grim, didn't Train say you were presenting today? Grim gasped and stared at the boy in disbelief. You get Train mad again today, you're done for, man, the boy warned. Yuya nodded in total agreement. Yuya thanked the boy and got a troubled smile in return. Stay strong, you, the boy said. Come on, you have to study for real, Yuya told Grim. Today might actually be the day he makes you stay for detention. What? Grim groaned. This sucks. After forcing the reluctant Grim to study, Yuya opened his own book, a thick reference volume on Twisted Wonderland itself, including its history and geography. Yuya had only a few more pages to get through. He hadn't memorized everything so far, since there was so much information, but he clearly remembered the shock he'd felt for the first time when he saw the world map of Twisted Wonderland, which was so different from Earth. He'd learned the names of the major countries, plus details about the places his friends were from. Night Raven College was on Sage's Island, which was off the coast of the Land of Dawning. This small island held both Night Raven College and its rival, the Royal Sword Academy. Ace and Deuce, along with Train and Riddle, were from the Queendom of Roses. This was an archipelago to the east of Sage's Island. Cater was from the Shaftlands, with the largest landmass in Twisted Wonderland, located on the far west of Sage's Island. Cater had moved frequently because of his parents' work, and Yuya had learned the name of several towns and cities from him. The section in the book Yuya was reading now was about Sunset Savannah. Boy oh boy, how topical. That was where Leona was from, as a member of the royal family of Sunset Savannah. When he checked the book before him, he saw that the Sunset Savannah was located on the south of Sage's Island. The book said, the country contains vast lands and natural vistas, and that rare wild animals thrive there. Pictures featured blue skies, grasslands, and wildlife. The book noted that Sunset Savannah had once been a lawless land, but the region's cities were now well-functioning and fully modern. The majority of citizens were beast people, and the society's respect for the natural world prevented reckless development of the land, so that wildlife and nature were preserved. As Yuya stared at the map, Grim glared at the scope of the day's lesson and groaned. I can't get my head around all this stuff at all. But for Yuya, the pre-class review paid off. he made it through the morning's lessons without any serious issues. Then, just as Ace had insisted, they headed for the cafeteria. As usual, the large space was packed with people. Yuya got his lunch and looked around for a table when a hand shot up into the air, catching his eye. "Guys, over here," Riddle called. Behind Yuya, Ace burst out laughing. Riddle raising his hand like he was in class was simply too incongruous for the cafeteria. "Hey, don't laugh," Deuce chided him, even though he was giggling too. "You're early," music note emoji. "How was class?" Cater said. He was sitting next to Riddle. "Class was good," Deuce said, settling down next to him. "Clover isn't with you?" "A bit of a trek to the cafeteria," Cater said, "so I brought him some lunch I picked up at the shop. That way he can eat in the classroom and rest his poor leg." He winked at Yuya, Grim, and Ace across from him. "On my man Riddle's orders, of course," a music note emoji. Naturally, if he overexerts himself, it would take even longer for his injury to heal. Riddle cleared his throat and picked up his spoon. He urged Yuya and the others to dig in. "You can listen while you eat. I want to ask everyone again about yesterday's events, but before that, we have some important new information." "New info?" Grim asked as he blew on his piping hot macaroni and cheese in a trance-like state. "What's what? You maybe find our guy already or something?" "No," Riddle shook his head. "It's not good news. There was another incident last night." "What? Someone else got hurt?" Yuya's eyes widened. Ace and Deuce also looked at Riddle in surprise. Cater, who'd first learned of what happened, lowered his voice as he described the story he'd been told by one of the moving portraits decorating Nightraven College. According to the portrait, he said, glancing at each of them in turn, the victim was a second year from Scarabia Dorm, the vice housewarden, Jamil Viper. I guess he had an accident in the cafeteria's kitchen. "What, Jamil, really?" Ace cried out. Yuya asked if Ace knew him. "He's in the basketball club," Ace replied. "He's pretty good, I think, but he maybe argues more with Floyd than he actually plays." Deuce fell into thought. "The vice housewarden of Scarabia. I'm sure I must have seen him, but I can't quite picture him at all." "Jamil doesn't particularly stand out," Riddle said. "I suppose his distinguishing feature is his long black hair. He wears it in braids. He's usually with the housewarden, Kaleem Al-Asim. Kaleem has white hair and wears a bandana. Both wear Scarabia armbands in dark red and yellow." "Oh," Ace looked off as if he took a bite of pastry. "Hey, over there, isn't that Jamil?" Yuya turned to look. 3 tables away, a student with black hair was sitting with a student in a bandana. Both wore Scarabia armbands. "You're right," Riddle said, surprised. "That is Jamil and Kaleem. Speak of the devil." "Those two never slum it with us regular folks in the cafeteria," Cater said, smiling. "It's our lucky day." "Yes, let's go get the scoop right now," Grim said, spooning up some of his macaroni. "After I eat this, of course." They all hurried to finish their lunches and then headed towards Jamil and Kaleem's table. "Hello, Jamil." "Kaleem," Riddle said. "I never imagined I'd see you in the cafeteria." "Oh!" A broad smile popped up on the face of the white-haired student, Kaleem. His teeth shone brightly. "If it isn't Riddle and Cater and first years! Wow, you're all so cute." Up close, Kaleem's hair wasn't white. It was a bright gray and shone like a pearl. "Ah," Kaleem said, looking at Yuya and Grim. "Are you the two from Ramshackle Dorm?" "Yep, I'm the Great Grim." Grim threw his head back and his chest out. "This is my minion, you." "Wow, I'm Kaleem, the housewarden of Scarabia. This is my vice housewarden, Jamil. Let's be friends." Kaleem's whole face grinned, golden earrings swaying. He was the definition of innocence and very friendly. He held out a hand. As Yuya timidly clasped it, Kaleem pumped it vigorously up and down. "Nice to meet you." This was the most pleasantly enthusiastic greeting Yuya had received since he came to Nightraven College. He couldn't help but smile. It was clear that Kaleem's words came directly from his heart. However, Ace and Deuce were confused by Kaleem's immediate intimacy. Beside Kaleem, Jamil watched this greeting in careful silence, finishing his soup, and set his spoon down quietly. So, he asked, "What did you want?" In stark contrast with the cheery Kaleem, Jamil was reserved. He gazed hard at Yuya and his friends with a sharpness that dug into Yuya's soul, making him afraid. As Yuya shrank back, Ace, the conversational wizard, smiled brightly and raised a hand. Hey, Jamil, he said. Good to see you. I heard you got hurt. You okay? Jamil raised a skeptical eyebrow. Did you come over here just to ask about that, Ace? Yep, Ace grinned. I was just so worried, wringing my hands and everything. We barely know each other. Ace was playing the good little freshman, the type upperclassmen felt almost compelled to baby and watch out for, but Jamil wasn't buying it for a second. He didn't seem angry, though. He simply offered a faint smile as Ace told him to get better soon. I gotta say, word travels fast, Jamil remarked. We just happened to hear about the accident, Riddle said. Would you mind telling us what happened? Jamil narrowed his eyes. Why do you want to know? Ace had tried to appear relaxed and friendly, but Jamil remained on guard. Smiling affably, Cater stood beside Riddle and tried to smooth things over. It's just, the head maid, she asked us to check it out. You know how Heartstable uses the cafeteria kitchen sometimes for our tea parties? Crowley was like, go on and get the lowdown on that sitch. So you think you could tell us the deets and how you got hurt in there? Well, I guess. Jamil didn't seem to buy this, but he decided to tell them anyways. It was about 8 o'clock. I was in the kitchen frying up some lamb rolls Kaleem asked for. The smell really fills the dorm when I fry food, so I came to the cafeteria to cook them. What? Grim said, drooling. You cook up feasts like that? Oh, man, Kaleem said, leaning forward. You have no idea how amazing Jamil's lamb rolls are. You gotta try them one day. You mean it? Grim's eyes lit up. Hey, Grim, we're not doing that right now, Deuce said, rebuking the monster, and Jamil sighed. It was night and all, Jamil continued, and the ghosts weren't even in the cafeteria. I was chopping ingredients by myself, and I cut my hand. It wasn't so bad I needed stitches, but it wasn't just a scratch either. The nurse said I shouldn't move it too much until it heals properly. He lifted his bandaged hand to display the wide strip of gauze wrapped around the area between his thumb and index finger. Youch, Ace winced. So, you're quite skilled in the kitchen, but you got careless, Riddle said, staring at the injury. Were you tired from preparing for the spell drive tournament? No, Jamil said, rejecting the idea firmly. I wasn't so tired I'd lose control of my hands. Yeah, Kaleem said, looking proudly at Jamil. Even the head chef will tell you how legendary Jamil is with a knife. The lamb rolls and everything else he makes are amazingly good. I love them all. I always get excited for his lunches, you know? Oh, that's why you're having lunch in the cafeteria today, Riddle observed. It would have been hard for Jamil to cook with an injured hand. Uh-huh, Kaleem lowered his eyebrows sadly. Jamil said the cut's not that big of a deal, but I was worried. I wanted it to heal as fast as it can. Jamil listened impassively. Compared to the intensely expressive Kaleem, he seemed settled and mature. He waited for a break in the conversation before speaking again. I wasn't particularly tired, he told them, but at one point while I was cooking, I did feel kind of lightheaded. Did you get dizzy? Yuya asked. No, Jamil shook his head. Other guys might think that, but no. That was someone's signature spell. A signature spell? Everyone chorused at once. A signature spell was a unique spell particular to a single mage, like Riddle's Off With Your Head, which locked away another person's magic, or Cater's Split Card, which created avatars of himself. If it was a signature spell, that meant someone had deliberately tried to hurt Jamil with magic. Riddle's face grew hard, and Cater gently applied the brakes to the mounting tension. It's not that we don't believe you, Jamil, Cater said with a smile, but how could you know that? You must have a reason for being so sure. Yuya was also curious why Jamil was so certain. None of the other victims had mentioned a signature spell. Ha ha ha! Kaleem laughed, opening his mouth wide. Well, Jamil of all people would know. Why would Kaleem say that? Yuya wondered. Jamil grabbed Kaleem by the shoulder. We're not talking about me here, Jamil said, firmly putting a stop to that topic. This was a serious departure from Jamil's generally calm manner. Still gripping Kaleem's shoulder, Jamil said to Cater, At any rate, I'm sure the culprit used a spell that allows him to control the movements of other people. Doesn't matter to me if you believe me or not. Of course I believe, Cater grinned. Sorry, I was just curious is all. Thanks for talking to us. No, it was nothing. Jamil stood up and started to walk away. Come on, Kaleem. wait for me, Jamil. Kaleem scrambled to his feet as he gave Yuya and his friends a wave and a smile. Let's talk again soon. He chased after Jamil, who didn't even glance back. Once Jamil's head of black hair was out of sight, Cater said in a low voice, Interesting. A signature spell that controls people's movements, huh? Huh? Grim raised a dubious eyebrow. You sure we should swallow the line he's feeding us? Cater nodded readily. Whatever makes him certain it's a signature spell, he's got no reason to lie about it. And everything the injured students have said makes sense if magic's involved. That's why everyone else assumed our guys were being careless. Controlling magic, Riddle asked, crossing his arms. When I nearly fell down the stairs, I never felt as though I was being controlled against my own will. But it was only a quick moment. Perhaps it wasn't enough time for me or anyone else besides Jamil to tell if we were being controlled. Ace furrowed his brow. So then we got no way of finding this guy, do we? Yuya was at a loss, too. Just when they seemed to be making some progress, they hit another wall. He thought back to the magnificent magic of Riddle, Trey, and Cater. Discovering what this new signature spell was and who was using it wouldn't be as easy without any leads. Is it even possible to have a signature spell that handy? Yuya asked. I mean, controlling other people. It's not all that surprising, Riddle told him. For instance, so I don't know, this is a little far-fetched, but if you cast two spells, one to put someone to sleep for an instant and a spell that makes that person move physically, you might be able to have that person do exactly what you wished. Whoa, Ace said, scowling. That's like magic on hard mode. I mean, tackling more than one spell at a time? Well, naturally it wouldn't be easy. Riddle laughed like this was the most obvious thing in the world. Not just anyone could do it, but signature spells take as their foundations basic spells, the sorts of ordinary magic you see all the time. Should the need arise, a mage can combine and refine them into something new. Do you mean it takes a lot of study and practice to create a signature spell? Yuya asked. Riddle looked uncertain, like he wasn't sure how to answer. I can't speak for others in general, but that's how it was for me, he said. There are also cases where the spell manifests due to the sorcerer's particular nature. Some signature spells might also be the result of a flash of inspiration, I suppose. Riddle looked out at the cafeteria. Even through the peak of the lunch rush had passed, plenty of students were still hanging around. Yuya wondered if Riddle was thinking about the signature spells of the people gathered there. Whatever the route a mage takes to his spell, it almost never happens that another person will use the same one. Riddle said with a slight smile. It's a gift that comes from the person's own nature and skill. That's why they're signature spells. Ha! Grim sighed, entranced. Nice, that's the dream. I want a cool signature spell, too. I completely get that, Deuce said, clenching his fist. I mean, every mage dreams of having his own signature spell. Well, then, you have to study the basics, Riddle said gently. He seemed to feel that it was cute for a first year to talk about developing his signature spell. He himself had learned off with your head at a tender age of 10. Trey told them that it had been the result of Riddle's many hours of diligent study under the watchful eyes of his strict mother. But, Yuya wondered, what had actually led him to develop his signature spell, which allowed him to stop other people from using magic? Yuya didn't know how he started the process, the amount of work, nothing. There was no way he could know, given that he himself couldn't use magic, but he imagined that it wasn't all fun and games. Yet Riddle's expression as he talked about spells was softer than usual. He almost looked happy. Maybe he hadn't been strong-armed into it by an overbearing mother. He really liked magic. Ace sighed dreamily. A spell to control other people, huh? That'd be handy. If I had a signature spell like that, I'd control the teachers and make every day free study. What would be the point of that? Yuya laughed. If you're going that far, why not make the school close? Oh, Ace's eyes lit up. That could work too. We'd just be hanging out all day, every day. The pair grinned at each other and then gasped as they felt Riddle's hard eyes on them. His expression was completely changed, his gentle smile gone. A deep crease divided his eyebrows. The serious housewarden clearly disapproved of such heresy. Not noticing, Deuce said, if I had that spell, homework would. And then Deuce stopped as he noticed Riddle glaring and hurriedly waved his hands. Oh, it's nothing, actually. That wasn't very honor student of me. Just forget it. These first years really are such little babes, huh? Cater said with a smile. Total cuties. You think so too, right, Riddle? I do not think so at all, Riddle snapped. I would like them to apply themselves to their studies in a more dignified way, diligently. Grim ignored this and grinned as his dreams swelled. If I had that spell, I'd make all the guys at school give me food every day. Ha ha, Cater laughed. That's very you, Grimmy. Yeah, Grim said, enjoying himself. And then I'd take all the luncheon snacks and pastries at the shop all for me. And then I'd eat all the deluxe ham and cheese sandwiches? Graham cocked his head. Ah! His sudden loud cry echoed through the cafeteria. Every student turned to stare. Yuya clamped a hand over Grim's mouth and bowed apologetically to the room. What was the screaming for, you demanded? Grim peeled Yuya's hand away from his face. Seriously. I know! I got it, Grim said. The guy using that signature spell, it's Ruggy! That jerk of a thief is our guy! What? Ruggy? Yuya stared at him blankly. Yeah, Grim nodded firmly. You know, the one who made me trade my deluxe ham and cheese sandwich for that Insianpan. I totally didn't want to trade, but my body moved all on its own like someone else was controlling it. It's gotta be Ruggy. It was true, Yuya thought. That sandwich trade was very out of character for Grim. Huh? Ace stared at him stunned. You really didn't do that because you wanted to? We were right there with you, though, Deuce remarked. There was totally nothing going on that we could see. Riddle, Cater, Yuya said, turning to the two older boys. What do you think? Kirke thinks Ruggy's looking pretty good for it, Cater said with a wink. Right, Riddle nodded. This is testimony we can't turn a blind eye to. We'll apprehend Ruggy and hear what he has to say. You think he'll actually talk to us? Ace asked, propping his chin in one hand. What's with this whole vibes yesterday? I got the feeling he's pretty crafty. Yes, just as you say, Ruggy's quite crafty. And ordinary means won't cut it, Riddle agreed. But collecting evidence is going to take some time, which is exactly why we should knock him off balance now and see what he does. Find his weak spot, reap the results, and if he maintains his innocence, insisting he knows nothing, well, that's no harm to us. A bold smile spread across his face. There are any number of ways to approach him. If, say, we threaten him or lock his magic away, even Ruggy would no doubt reveal his true nature. Huh? Threaten him, Yuya said, worried. The winds were blowing in a dangerous direction. We're not going to just talk to him? Well, of course we'll do that, Riddle said. If he cooperates, that is. I was also thinking I would really love to thank him for yesterday. I have a few questions of my own for him. His gray eyes burned with fighting spirit. Deuce and Ace had been telling the truth when they said Riddle had been furious about the game the previous day. So, right off the bat, you want to use violence to make him talk? Ace asked, rolling his eyes in exasperation. What was all that talk just now about being more dignified? Yuya leaned toward Ace, grabbed his arm, and pleaded in a quiet voice. This is going to turn into a huge fight. Ace, you have to stop Riddle. Whoa, nuh-uh, I can't, Ace refused, shrugging in his resignation. Look, he's all revved up and ready to go, and if you'd seen how angry he got yesterday, you'd know there's no stopping him. He patted Yuya on the shoulder. Give up. Deuce, meanwhile, was grinning and slamming a fist into the palm of his other hand. All right, how about we go pay a visit to Ruggy? Delinquent Deuce is very, very, very close to coming out. Yes, Riddle said. After school, we'll meet at Ruggy's classroom. Is that understood? Yes, Grim threw his arms up. Maybe he wanted revenge for the violent spell drive game or for being cheated out of his deluxe ham and cheese sandwich. Or both. But he was chomping at the bit. Yuya watched Cater sigh and shake his head. Yuya hoped that the afternoon class would drag on longer somehow, but of course they finished on time for once. All right, Grim cried. Here we go. With a heavy heart, Yuya followed his friends to the designated classroom. Pardon me. Second year, Class B. Riddle and Cater were already standing outside the room when they arrived. After Riddle confirmed they were all there, he opened the door. Tell me, Grim said, leaping inside first. Where's Ruggy Boochie? and the whole classroom immediately erupted in excited chatter. Wow, it's the monster from Ramshackle Dorm, and it's the dicey first year everyone's talking about. Isn't that Riddle Rosehearts behind them? The guy from the tea party and the Overblot thing? Yuya felt an almost physical pain at being the focus of that many eyes, but neither Grim nor Riddle so much as flinched. You guys again, a figure said and stood up slowly from his desk. Ruggy. He moved leisurely to face Grim. While the monster had his hackles all the way up, Ruggy looked bored. So what do you want from me now? Ruggy turned to Ace and Deuce, smiling the way he always did. You even brought Riddle today? You're trying to get your mommy to finish your fights for you? Force me to say sorry for yesterday? We'll get to that. We have other business to attend to first, Riddle announced. His voice was a low growl. He was just barely holding back his anger. Ruggy Bucci, we need to ask you some questions about the injuries to students trying out for the Spell Drive tournament. Oh, what's that about? Ruggy shivered and rubbed his arms. Sounds like some serious business. Don't try to fake us out, Grim snarled. We know you're doing it. Gator pushed Grim aside with one hand. How about we move to the hall and keep this in the figurative DMs, if you catch my drift? Well, fine, Ruggy agreed readily enough. Whatever. The group left the classroom. No one said a word as they walked down the hallway, everyone anticipating what might happen next. They went down the stairs and came to the courtyard. The area was loud with people coming and going, everyone scattering to make the most out of their precious time after school. No one so much as glanced at Yuya and his party. Yuya brushed away the fallen leaves on a bench under a large apple tree and sat down. He urged Reggie to sit, but the boy refused. Nah, I'm good, he said. Let's get right to it, Cater began. Let me ask you point blank, do you know anything about these injuries, Reggie? Nope, not a thing. Head held high, he didn't look the least bit shaken. He came across as someone telling the truth. Ace and Deuce frowned, suddenly unsure. I'll ask again, Riddle said, uncrossing his arms. Do you really not know anything about the spate of injuries that have befallen prospective Spell Drive players? How many times are you going to make me tell you? Reggie replied, annoyed. I don't know anything. I did hear that a lot of people were getting hurt lately, but that's probably on them for being careless. I see, Riddle pursed his lips tightly. So you intend to feign innocence. Oh my, you don't actually suspect me, do you? A challenging smile spread across Reggie's face. Can you even be sure I did it? Any evidence? Do you have any witnesses who saw me casting spells? Did anyone snap a pic? You don't have anything like that, do you? If you had any proof, you'd simply nab me without any questions. That's true, Riddle agreed. We don't have any proof. See? Ruggy cried triumphantly. Anyways, I've got nothing to do with it. You don't? Riddle asked quietly. In that case, you won't mind if I steal your magic, will you? You know, if he said that nice and calmly, it would kind of come across as very, very threatening. Ruggy froze, showing fear for the first time. Then he raised an eyebrow and rolled his eyes theatrically before turning a glare on the Hartsable Housewarden. Yeah, no thanks to that. It's a bit much to go and make it so that I can't use magic for no reason at all. You're exactly right, Riddle agreed. So how about we join you, spend some time together. We can confirm that you're not the perpetrator by being with you when the next incident happens. A look of relief flashed across Ruggy's face. Perhaps this had been Riddle's plan all along. No thanks, Ruggy replied, clearly and very coldly, his smile returning. I don't get anything out of that deal. You don't get anything from it, but it doesn't hurt you either, Riddle insisted. You can clear your name just by being with us. That's a hard pass from me. I don't think I'd be able to breathe with you all around. Come on, Riddle insisted. A couple of days is more than plenty. You can do whatever you want during that time. Study, practice, spell drive, anything. I'm sure you're not pleased that people suspect you of doing something so terrible. Unlike you, princelings, Riley sneered. I'm used to being eyed suspiciously. You are surprisingly stubborn, Riddle sighed. Why exactly would this arrangement be inconvenient for you? The danger in the air grew palpable. Yuya felt it prickle and stab at his skin with every word. Ruggy obviously hated the idea of Riddle and the others watching his movements, even if it cleared their suspicions. Yuya wondered if that meant Ruggy was up to something, but saying no to their proposal was, of course, not a crime. The two boys continued poking at each other with needle-like precision, Riddle clever and Ruggy cautious, with neither one giving in or giving up. Riddle cast a furtive glance at Yuya and the others. I have no choice, he said finally. Given that they didn't know the true nature of Ruggy's signature spell, they would have to make the first move. It was simply too risky to let the sly Ruggy get the jump on them. As they discussed in the cafeteria, Riddle intended to use his own signature spell to prevent Ruggy from using magic. The only proof that Riddle had was Grimm's testimony, and Yuya wondered if that was really enough to justify using magic on another person. If Ruggy turned out to be innocent, they didn't have the right to do so. It was also a violation of school rules, the part of the plan that Riddle hated the most. In the cafeteria earlier, right before the group left to go to their afternoon classes, Yuya had asked Riddle about the ethical dilemmas of his plan. Not an issue, Riddle had said immediately. You also thought Grimm was acting strangely that day, did you not? Huh? Me? Yuya asked, confused. Yes, I mean, Grimm's obsessed with food, so it was like, no way. I can't be 100% sure, though. It's enough, Riddle had said. I have faith in you and Grimm. After that, Riddle had left to go to his classroom, and Ace had said to Yuya, that was a surprise. When did you get so chummy with the house warden? Yuya had cast his eyes downward. Oh, I don't think we got chummy or anything. Yuya figured that was probably just how Riddle was. Stubborn and inflexible, but straightforward by nature. He was surprisingly simple, in a way. He took people at their word. Riddle expected a lot from others, and for better or for worse, Yuya was pretty sure not too many people had ever betrayed those expectations. Here in the courtyard, as the Hearthstable house warden opened his mouth, Yuya could see in Riddle's eyes a powerful will that would not tolerate any injustices. Off with your... Ruggy slapped a hand over Riddle's mouth, muffling the rest of his words. He looked down at Riddle, and the corners of his mouth turned into a grin. Calm yourself, man. Are you sure you should be casting such a powerful spell without your magical pen? Huh? Riddle pushed Ruggy's hand away and looked down at his own chest. His eyes widened in surprise. It's gone. My magical pen is gone. The glimmer had disappeared from his uniform breast pocket, the place where he had always kept his magical pen. It and the crimson mage stone embedded in it were not there. What? No way, how come? Cater asked, flustered. Ah! Grimm cried out, staring at them both. Hey, Cater, your pen's gone too! What? Cater patted his chest, a stunned look on his face. You're kidding me, how? Ruggy's high-pitched laugh pierced their ears. Children of privilege, every one of you. So unprepared, so complacent, like taking candy from a baby. While still doubled over in uncontrollable laughter, Ruggy raised his right hand, which held 4 magical pens with rich Hearthstable mage stones. With a gasp, Yuya whirled his head around to look at Ace and Deuce's chest pockets and saw that their magical pens were also missing. Your pens, he cried, pointing, and the 2 boys reeled. Wait, what? Ace gasped in astonishment. My magical pen? And like, one of those is mine? Deuce stared hard at Ruggy. When did you... Absurd, Riddle muttered, dazed. There was no sign of him using magic, though. Please, Ruggy clacked the pens in his hand against each other. As if I'd need magic to do this. I just happen to be quite good with my hands, is all. Had he really slipped in close to them to take their pens? He had plenty of chances for close contact in the hallway or in the courtyard. How had none of them noticed? Yuya felt like Ruggy was mocking them with this astonishing sleight of hand. Face red with anger, Riddle opened his mouth wide, ready to start yelling. Hold up a sec, Riddle, Cater shouted, quickly stopping him. You're about to use your signature spell, yeah? The answer was clear on Riddle's face. You finally just got out of that awful blot on you. Don't be a hero, man. A mage stone wasn't required for casting spells, but it made it easier to release the magic without also bearing the burden of the blot that was generated as a result of using said magic. Occasionally, casting a small spell without a mage stone wasn't a serious issue, but casting a powerful signature spell without one was reckless. It had the potential to wreak havoc on the caster. In particular, Riddle had only recently recovered from overblotting, and he couldn't know what effect even a hint of blot would have on his health right now. Ruggy said, having a collar slapped onto my neck's not on my agenda today, so I'll be on my way. He gave them a casual salute with 2 fingers and turned to go. Grimm quickly leapt out to block his way. His mage stone was tied to a ribbon that hung around his neck. It's Grimm's turn to shine. Take this, he-ya! Grimm opened his mouth and spat out 3 white-hot fireballs, one after another. The large flames shot towards Ruggy. Ace clenched a fist and shouted, yes! But Ruggy's twisting his body and easily dodged the fireballs. After missing their target, the flames disappeared with a sad sizzle. What? Grim gasped, shocked. You're so slow I'm falling asleep over here. Ruggy laughed and skipped away. All bark and no bite, huh? All of you apprehend Ruggy Bucci immediately, Riddle snapped in a thorny voice. They chased after Ruggy's slender back. Ace, Deuce, and Cater also let spells fly, but nothing even grazed the hyena boy. Without their magical pens, they had less control over their magic, but Ruggy was also too quick. He moved aerobatically over, under, and around all sorts of objects, avoiding a straight line. Yuya put everything he had into trying to catch him on foot, but he couldn't get the slightest bit closer. What is with this dude? Ace half shrieked, half panted. He's wild fast. Deuce lunged at Ruggy, but the boy slipped right through his arms, causing Deuce to nearly trip and fall flat onto his face. After missing Ruggy with his outstretched arms yet again, Deuce cried, "How can he slip away like a greased monkey?" Compared to the back streets of Sunset Savannah, this is a cakewalk. Ruggy leapt over a bench and tripped up Riddle and Cater. Cater leaned forward to cast a wind spell, but Ruggy did a quick backflip and slipped behind a tree to escape it. Then he used the crowd of onlookers who had been lured in by the chaos as a smokescreen and left Grim and the others eating his dust. Laid on his feet, Ruggy deftly turned both obstacles and the terrain into allies as he eluded his pursuers. He never hesitated, seeing the perfect path forward at all times. "God, I'm gonna explode," Grim said, gasping for air. Yuya grabbed hold of him tightly. "You can't hit him," Yuya cried. "He's too quick and will jump out of the way. You'll never get him." As he held back the flailing Grim, he saw Riddles and the others panting for breath. "You guys too, without your magical pens." Yuya didn't want to hurt anyone's pride, but all they were doing was exhausting themselves. This was just like the spell drive game with Savanaclaw, and you didn't want them to repeat that experience. Realizing they were defeated, Riddles screwed up his face in frustration. "That's right," Reggie said, grinning and shrugging. "Hothouse flowers like you, little princes, never had a hope of catching me in the first place." Reggie's uniform was too big for him, and he rolled up with his billowing sleeves of his jacket. "Honestly, I could have done without the workout. Look, fellas, I hate wasting my time and energy, so the next time you want to come after me, do me a favor and gather some proof first. Oh, and you really must make sure you have your magical pens all ready to go next time." He made a show of holding up the magical pens with the Heartstable Mage Stones, then laughed as he threw them far away into some bushes. "You want to thank me for not keeping them," Ruggy taunted. "You coward," Riddle shouted furiously. "Don't you realize how important the Spell Drive tournament is?" "Coward, Ruggy's voice turned cold. He tilted his slender, sinewy neck to one side. "What would you all know? I don't need any righteous lectures from precious little boys raised in the lap of luxury." Ruggy glared at them, his icy eyes almost too large for his face. His body was nothing but skin and bones. Without blinking, he twisted his lips up in what might have been a smile, but which his sharp fangs turned into a threat. "Do you get a prize for being good?" Ruggy demanded. "Do you get a little reward for doing the right thing? You can make all the pretty speeches you want, but you don't go shoving your morality on me." For the first time since they had confronted him in his classroom, Ruggy dropped his easy smile, displaying anger and annoyance. This surprised all of them, and the Heartstable Housewarden's eyes grew wide in shock. Ruggy clicked his tongue as he surveyed the astonished Yuya and friends. Maybe even he felt like his words were out of character for him. "Toodles," he said, disappearing almost before the word was out of his mouth. And that is the end of Chapter 7. I thought they were going to have the little, running with Ruggy thing be a bit longer, but it's still very interesting. I really like the way that they are doing some of the character moments. But yeah, they made Ruggy really, really, really skinny. He's a very desperate, hungry boy. Exactly. Yeah. They made sure that we knew that Jade and Floyd were tall, that Leona was so ridiculously handsome, that the Savanaclaw boys were all ridiculously buff, and that Malleus was also tall. But they also wanted us to really know that Ruggy is a very hungry and very skinny boy. Poor boy's starving. Poor boy has been starving for a long time. And even at Night Raven College, with the availability of the food, I don't know what the meal plan is for the college specifically. I don't know if they have, good food or not at Night Raven College specifically. Or like if you have to pay per meal or if it's just rolled into stuff. Like I don't know what that is like. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems weird. Maybe they're limited to 3 meals a day. They could be. They could be. But Ruggy is still just like not having it. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, we have a few more chapters to get through. I think it's only been 2 hours. It feels like it's been longer than 3 hours. I don't know. I feel like maybe we should do one more chapter. There is 15 total chapters in this book. But the 15th chapter is the Octavanel intro, right? Like it's like a little bit of like, oh, there's 16 chapters. Never mind. There's 16 chapters, but I think 15 and 16 are just like the intro because the end illustration comes up before then. And chapter 16 is absolutely just Octavanel because it starts with Jade and Floyd. So, but I think we could maybe do one more, get through chapter 8, and then we'll pick up with chapter 9 next time. In the next stream. And then maybe that stream will be able to finish the entire Savanaclaw novel. At that point in time, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think at least one more. I think at least one more. And then that'll put us a little bit more than halfway through the book. So, one more. I think one more. It's a chunky one more. It's, oh gosh, it's what, 20, it's like 30, almost 40 pages. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Yes, they only have Heartstable and Savanaclaw novels for right now. They're the only ones that are translated. I don't even know if there is an Octavanel novel in JP, but there is. The Octavanel manga is complete, the Savanaclaw manga is complete, the Heartstable manga is complete, and the Scarabia manga, I don't know if it's complete, but it definitely has at least like 2 volumes. The Octavanel manga is not complete in English, neither is the Savanaclaw quite yet, but they are finished in JP, and then Scarabia is not out in English yet, but I think 2 volumes are out in JP. I think. It's not done, but there's at least like 2 volumes now, right? In JP, I think. Eating. I could be wrong. I don't typically pay all that much attention to JP, but I do get spoilers on Twitter sometimes. So there is that. Yes, there is 2. Okay, yeah. So that's kind of where the serialization is. Embroidered with metallic thread is an absolute nightmare. I've heard. I'll have to hunt down if they have physical. Yeah. Like, you can definitely, I know, like, Barnes & Nobles, you can definitely get both the Heartstable novel and the Savanaclaw novel translated in English. I mean, I don't know if you're in the US or not. You could also just be in Europe. I don't know. Or somewhere else. But they have that. They have all the Heartstable manga, and then they also have the first 2 volumes of Savanaclaw and the first 2 volumes of Octavanel. We need the 3rd volume of Savanaclaw still and the 3rd volume of Octavanel still. But I think the first volume of Scarabia is coming out in April? Maybe? Possibly? Yes, and then there's also a box set for Heartstable manga as well. And I think there's like a fancy version of the Heartstable book, but I think that only exists in France. There's like a fancy hard-covered sprayed edge version of the Heartstable novel, but I saw it on like the French Disney Plus Instagram specifically, and it was only on that, so like I don't know if you can get that anywhere else. And I don't know if it was just for the giveaway or if they actually have another version somewhere else. And it might not have been France specific. It was one of the other Disney Plus accounts. You got jump scared by Trey's face on the poster. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, they'll definitely do all of the books in different mangas. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do like books 6 and 7 in the mangas because of how big they are in general. Just as books, as things. Man, I think I have all the Heartstable manga, so I didn't want to get the box set. I think I might get the Octavanel box set though, just cuz. Just because. No particular reason. Yeah, that number meme's gonna be the death of me, guys. I don't. 6 feels, yes. 7 is like a mammoth, and 6 already felt long. But I think 6 also feels long in part because the towers, you have to wait like 3 hours to refresh them every once in a while. So, but yeah, it's a time and a half. It's a real time. Alrighty, should we indulge chapter 8? Should we indulge it? Should we try? Should we maybe see what there is to see in chapter 8? Before my voice decides to give out entirely. Just the other problem with the reading streams. I don't know. I feel like I've gotten much more used to it for streams. I have time, it's just my throat. That's all. But we should probably get through at least another one. Because that'll make it easier for the next stream, which we may or may not be able to get through entirely. But chapter 8. Here we go. Okay, that's that then. Ruggy's our guy, Ace said. We got Jamil saying it was definitely a signature spell and the sandwich attack on Grimm, and then the fact that he's in Savanaclaw dorm gives him a motive. They want to win the spell drive tournament more than anything. Plus, he was acting real sus when Riddle questioned him. Felt like he was snapping back at us so that he wouldn't give the game away. Grimm bobbed his head in agreement, but Deuce didn't respond at all. Yuya leaned forward to peer into his face. Since Ace, Deuce, and Yuya were filling up the bench in the courtyard, Grimm jumped onto the skinny armrest, not wanting to miss a detail, turning towards the boys and plopped his feet into Yuya's lap. Is something bothering you? Yuya asked Deuce. Yeah, Deuce said, clearly unconvinced. I mean, I know it seems like he did it, but I feel like it's too soon to jump to conclusions. Huh? Ace said, surprised. How come you're talking like a goody two-shoes all of a sudden? You were chasing Ruggy down around here too. You chickening out on us? No, and don't get the wrong idea here. I'm not trying to defend him, Deuce frowned. I agree, Butchie's our prime suspect, but we don't have any proof. No, yeah, Ace agreed. That's why Riddle and Cater are half killing themselves looking for some. After Ruggy had waltzed away, the enraged Riddle had declared, I will prove Ruggy is the culprit, and then he and Cater had left to dug up the necessary evidence. Riddle had insisted that Ace, Deuce, Yuya, and Grimm sit tight in the courtyard and wait before doing anything else. I'm worried about Cater too, Yuya said. Are you sure you guys are really okay? I mean, you were using magic without your magical pens. Will you stop asking that already? For real, man, we're fine, Ace said, breaking into a quiet smile. Think for a second. Grimm was using magic without a mage stone before he was a student, right? Yeah, Deuce chimed in, patting the magical pen in his chest pocket. The kinds of spells we were using were honestly no big deal. You don't need to worry so much. I don't. Yuya turned to Grimm. I'm a genius, the monster said smugly. This don't even faze me. Yuya laughed and relaxed a bit. He'd been terrified when Riddle overblotted. The situation was so serious that someone could have died. A shiver raced through Yuya every time he thought about that day. He never wanted anything like that to happen again, and was especially glad that Cater had stopped Riddle from using his signature spell against Ruggy. At that moment, Riddle and Cater were no doubt questioning students, teachers, and even ghosts and portraits across campus. If they came up empty-handed, they would dissect the scene of each and every accident. Riddle was so angry he wouldn't stop until they solved the mystery. I wonder if they'll find anything, Yuya murmured. Probably not, Ace replied glumly. Yuya feared he was right. The only way to prove someone had used magic was to catch them in the act. But Ruggy was careful. He sounded very confident no one would find any evidence of his crimes. I thought we were this close to closing the case, Yuya sighed. He said, and then he sighed. Why couldn't we just have Yuya sighed? I have not been as mad this go around at the writing specifically, but I think that's because we've had way more dialogue, because we've had way more characters. But the sentence is literally like Yuya said, he sighed. Just say that Yuya sighed. You have 2 words in here that don't make any sense. You don't need to have this tiny sentence. Just say that Yuya sighed, and it's fine. It all works out. They don't need to be separate instances. Why are we doing this? Knowing that spell drive tournament candidates were deliberately attacked with a signature spell didn't solve anything if they had no proof of who it was, even though Ruggy was a likely suspect. So what do we do now? Ace groaned. Deuce also looked like he was at a loss. I hate this. He's whipping our butts, Grim whined. He gritted his teeth and kicked and flailed his short legs, whacking Yuya repeatedly. His claws snagged on Yuya's uniform pants. That hurts, you know, Yuya said, pushing Grim away. Then he noticed someone walking toward them. His silhouette was distinctive even from a distance. Silver ears, big tail. It was Savanaclaw's Jack Howell. So you guys haven't learned your lesson yet, Jack asked and crossed his arms, glaring. You're still on the hunt? What? Ace snapped. Sounds like you saw that whole thing, but now you want to talk? After everything's settled? You come to have a good laugh at us or what? I'm not here to laugh, Jack said. Go on then. Get out of here, Grim snorted indignantly. Neither he nor Ace thought too highly of Jack after he refused to help them the day before. Deuce also looked like he had a few choice words for Jack, although he held his tongue. We're making a plan, and it don't include you, Grim growled as he waved a paw to shoo Jack away. So go. We're busy. Jack scowled, making Yuya's heart skip a beat, but the wolf boy didn't snap back. Arms still crossed, he looked at them searchingly. Why are you going through all this trouble for the sake of total strangers? He asked. Yuya and his friends looked at each other. I mean, I'd get it if one of your pals was taken down, Jack added. You'd want revenge. Whoa, one of our pals? Ace interrupted. No one said anything about getting revenge. We're not doing any of this for anyone else. His mocking laugh stunned Jack. Deuce nodded in agreement. We're not going to all this trouble for anyone's sake. It's just a chance for us to score some kudos by catching the culprit. Yeah, that! Ace bobbed his head up and down. We got a chance to be on the roster for the Spell Drive tournament because of this, you know? So it's like a woohoo, we win! Grim grinned broadly and announced, I want to catch the guy so I can get my glorious mug on TV. Jack looked at Yuya. The question, what are they even talking about, was written all over his face. Yuya said, the head mage promised to let Ramshackle Dorm play in the tournament with a special roster if we figured out who's been injuring students. And Riddle said that if Ace and Deuce helped look for the culprit, he might give them a spot on the team left empty because of Trey Clover, a Hearthstone player who got hurt. So what about you then? Asked Jack, his yellow eyes shining bright golden like a midnight moon, stared straight at Yuya, who suddenly felt like he was being interrogated, as if Jack would see right through him if he tried to hide anything. The truth is, Yuya admitted, the head mage sort of told me to help in exchange for being allowed to live at the academy. Yuya's voice trailed off. He felt guilty. They all had ulterior motives. As Jack stared silently, Yuya wanted to leap and run away. Wanting to stand out, wanting to be on the team, wanting to not have to pay for food and lodging, these were all selfish reasons. Not one of them was doing this solely for their fellow students, for their school. People were getting seriously injured, and all of them, including Yuya, were mainly looking out for themselves. Yuya sighed. At least Riddle and Cater were more mature than the rest of them. Ha! Jack cried. You guys are total scum. His shoulders shook. It took Yuya a second to register that he was laughing. This unexpected reaction surprised Yuya. Ace and the others assumed Jack was mocking them. Oh yeah? Ace snarled. If we're scum, then you're less than scum. Because you've known all along, haven't you? You've known that Ruggy's the culprit. Huh? Deuce exclaimed, his eyes widened in surprise. Oh, so is that why you said yesterday he wasn't going to come for you? The smile slid off Jack's face. He stared silently with those eyes like the moon. Yuya couldn't tell what he was thinking. Did he not know how to answer? Was he deciding whether he could trust Yuya and his friends? Ace stood and stepped forward. You know, this guy in your own dorm is up to no good, and you still keep your lips zipped. You're as much of a coward as Ruggy is. Huh? What did you say? Jack growled, his face hard. The two boys glared at each other, invisible sparks flying. Yuya felt worried for Ace, who was so much smaller. Jack towered over them like a threatening, immovable boulder. A blue vein throbbed on his forehead. Yuya could hardly believe that such a powerful, brawny boy was his same age. But Ace didn't flinch. His face furrowed into a mean scowl as he glared at Jack. Yuya knew that Ace wasn't the type to let things slide or back down. Ace is right, Deuce chimed in. Plus, you stood and watched when he stole our magical pens just now. You're practically Ruggy's accomplice, Jack. Yeah, that's what he said, Grim shouted. And we don't got no time for talking to cowards. Grim stuck out his tongue and turned to Yuya. You think so too, right, you? Huh? Me? Yuya stammered, heart in his mouth. He jumped at the conversation turned his way, and Jack growled quietly. Jack looked so grim, he seemed ready to start swinging his fist at any second. Yuya shrank back and glanced at Ace and Deuce. Maybe he couldn't stand up defiantly the way they were doing, but he could do something else. If you think what Ruggy's doing is bad, he said nervously to Jack, then help us stop him. We need your help. This sincere plea caused a hint of doubt to cloud Jack's eyes. An uncomfortable silence ensued as Jack regarded them, looking angry, his lips pinched together in a firm line. He could have lashed out or become violent, but he didn't. Eventually, he came to a decision. Fine, Jack said quietly. I'll tell you everything I know. What? Yuya cried, really? I got one condition, though. Jack raised his palm, putting a check on Yuya's delight. Then his hand clenched into an enormous fist. Fight me. Huh? Fight you? Ace asked, staring in disbelief. What? Where did that come from? If I'm gonna open up and come clean, you've gotta earn it. I gotta know I can trust you, Jack explained. I'll size you up with my fist. Make sure you're not just talk. Yuya was stunned. Jack's reasoning baffled him into speechlessness. What does fighting have to do with that? Yuya asked surely. Size us up with your fists? I feel like there's a whole lot of other ways to prove that you can trust us. Hard same, Ace agreed, nodding firmly. You're talking like some delinquent from 100 years ago. Totally pointless and stupid, plus I hate getting all sweaty. Ace was always poking fun at Deuce's idealism, and he competed ruthlessly at times. So Yuya was grateful for his cool attitude now. Now you're talking my language, Deuce said, his voice low. Yuya gasped and whirled to look at Deuce. A bold smile crossed his face. Deuce was slamming a fist into his other palm, causing a dry thwap from the black leather gloves he always wore. The would-be honor student was gone. Sounds like fun, Deuce continued with a wry smile. Let's cut the smack talk and throw down. Jack grunted, also smiling. Deuce, I figured about the only thing you had going for you was how serious you are. Surprisingly, we're on the same wavelength about this. Glimpses of Deuce's old hooligan self revealed his old hooligan self? That makes him sound like a cartoon villain. Okay, hooligan self revealed themselves whenever he got fired up. That self was bold, principled, and deeply moral. Hold up a second, Yuya said. It's okay, you, Deuce replied, giving him a thumbs up. Though Yuya wasn't reassured at all. This isn't that kind of fight. It's a contest with our pride on the line. Yeah, no, Ace said, sounding exhausted by the machismo. That's basically the same. Signaling each other with their eyes, Jack and Deuce quickly came to a decision. It's rude to drag things out, Jack said. We'll settle this right here with the weight of our fists. Right here, right now, Deuce readily assented. This doesn't make sense, Grim said, craning his neck. What even is the weight of your fists? How are you gonna check that? I have no idea, Yuya muttered. Jack and Deuce stepped away from the bench and faced each other under the apple trees. Knuckles were cracked and shoulders were loosened as the combatants fixed their eyes on each other, measuring up their opponent. Yuya wanted to ask what they were going to do, but they ignored him and kept staring at each other, mouth pinched shut. The time for talk was over. The tension became unbearable, and Yuya was about to shout, "Stop!" when there was a sharp howl of wind and, in the next instant, a sickeningly loud crunch that made Yuya cringe. Huh? He exclaimed, swallowing hard, unsure of what he'd just seen. It all happened in the blink of an eye. In the same instant, Jack's fist had flown into Deuce's cheeks, and Deuce's fist had connected with Jack's chin, and both boys dropped to their knees. Had Yuya hallucinated the whole thing? No, the groans from the ground were very real. Yuya was so shocked he couldn't even speak. And he wasn't alone. Ace and Grim were equally astonished. Staggering, Deuce was the first to stand. He planted his right foot firmly on the ground and used it to push himself all the way up to his feet. Lifting his face a second later, Jack pressed a hand into his mouth and muttered incoherently. His brow was furrowed, perhaps in pain, but when he spoke, he somehow sounded happy. You really bring out the big guns, he said, rubbing his jaw. Never thought you'd go straight for a shot to the chin. My eyeballs are wobbling. You too, Deuce said. He wiped his mouth and smiled, pushing at his cheek, which was growing redder by the second. You sure can fight. Honestly, you're better than I imagined. Glad those muscles aren't some empty threat. Against Jack, Deuce was at a disadvantage in all kinds of ways. Physique, height, human versus beastman, and yet they seemed to have inflicted equal damage. The match seemed to be a draw, except that Deuce had got back to his feet first, meaning that it could almost have been called in his favor. He's a monster, Ace said, looking skeptical. He seemed to think that the contest was as strange as Yuya did. Well, you know, Deuce began. He grinned bashfully as everyone regarded him. He didn't seem to be the same steely competitor who had punched Jack a moment earlier. There's a trick to it, different from a sports thing. A trick? Ace muttered. Yikes, what is he even on about? Yuya didn't understand either. Maybe Deuce's trick was going straight for the jaw. He was quite sure of himself in a simple, magic-free fight. Shaking free of his shock, Yuya gasped, Are you all right? Jack faltered as he got to his feet. Yuya immediately reached out for help, but Jack shook his head as if he was insulted by the offer of assistance. Once Jack was on his feet, he moved his jaw from side to side, making sure it still worked. He flinched and scowled, and it clearly hurt him a lot, and Yuya couldn't watch. Deuce put a hand to his cheek as if it felt off somehow, and it was hard for him to talk. Both boys would have dark bruises the next day. I get it now, Jack said. He held out a hand to Deuce. You're solid. You follow through on your word. And your pals are all right with me, too. A promise is a promise. Yeah, Deuce shook the offered hand tightly. That punch told me you're the kind of guy who keeps his promises. They exchanged a firm handshake, so steeped in mutual admiration they didn't even notice everyone else's bewildered looks. Yuya forced them to sit on the bench, though. They were still unsteady on their feet. So, Ace asked. He clapped his hands together. If you're all right with us now, then give us the lowdown on this stitch at your dorm. I will, Jack said, lowering his voice. It's just like y'all figured. The one hunting all them guys is Ruggy. Yuya and his friends exchanged a glance. They'd suspected Ruggy as was their culprit, but they didn't know what to say now that their suspicions were confirmed. Then he's doing it using his signature spell? Deuce asked. Yep. Jack looked around to make sure they weren't being overheard, but everyone else had left the darkening courtyard. Jack explained further, looking serious. His signature spell makes its target copy his movements. He hurts guys while he's got them under his control and makes it look like they've had some kind of careless accident. Ha! So that's it, Ace groaned. That's how he was able to get Grim to trade without getting caught. He put out his hand and Grim put out his. That lousy rotten! Ah! Now I'm angry again, Grim yowled and stamped his feet in his paws in frustration. Yuya considered this. A spell that makes a person move however the user wants, in order to hurt them or to get them to do anything, was indeed some serious magic. There was one thing he wondered, though. With a signature spell, could Ruggy control someone from super far away? Yuya asked. Nah, I seriously doubt it, Ace replied. I mean, I can't say for sure, but you'd need a whole lot of magic for a spell that handy and that amazing. Ruggy shouldn't be able to use it too often, or as much as he has been. From the number of victims we've got, I figure he's also got to be right up close to cast the spell. When he took Grim's sandwich, Ruggy was standing there talking to him, Yuya noted. That's pretty different from when Riddle almost fell down the stairs with Trey. Yeah, you're right, Ace said, a slow realization dawning. Riddle and Trey would have for sure noticed some guy nearby making the same movement as if he was falling down the stairs. It wasn't only Riddle and Trey, Yuya thought. None of the other students they'd talked to, even Jamil, who confirmed that a signature spell was being used, had mentioned Ruggy being anywhere near them. There were no witnesses either. Was that even possible? They all turned to Jack. Ruggy's not acting alone, he said ruefully, casting his eyes down. Pretty much all the guys in Savanaclaw are in on it. I think they're faking people out, like making a wall or creating a distraction so people don't notice Ruggy. You mean your whole dorm's full of conspirators? Deuce said, his eyes widening in surprise. That means the culprit is actually everyone in Savanaclaw? Whoa, Jack, Grim said. Your dorm's getting their hands real dirty. It's probably not everyone in the dorm, Yuya said hurriedly. I mean, Jack's here right now trying to put a stop to this. Jack shook his head dejectedly, his shoulders slumping. Nah, they're right. It's totally pathetic. He was so troubled by his house's involvement that Yuya felt sorry for him. But Ace said casually. He clasped his hands behind his head. For guys who got their sights on going pro, how well they do at a spell drive tournament could make or break their careers. It isn't hard to get where they're coming from. That feeling of doing whatever it takes. And what did you just say? Jack growled. You get where they're coming from? Jack's menacing growl and sharp bared fangs sent Ace scrambling. Dude, don't get so mad. I was just joking, Ace declared, stepping back. Don't even joke about it. These cowardly, cheap tricks make me sick. Jack roared and pounded a fist against his thigh. What's the point in winning like this? Pretending you're better than you are, getting everyone talking about you. But there's no way you can build a future on lies. I don't care how strong the other guy is. Winning only means something when you fight with your own actual strength. He slammed his fist into his thigh again. Yuya was overwhelmed by Jack's intense burning passion. I've been training so hard for this tournament for so long, Jack said, looking straight ahead. I want to really go the distance, climb to the top on the back of my own strength and skill. I can't stand the thought of them wrecking all that for me. Jack grew more heated. Ace rolled his eyes and said, Ugh, I prefer talking to your fists. I thought you were just a dud, but you're actually one of those annoying, super self-aware hothead types. Nah, I get it, Deuce murmured, shaking his head and deeply moved. He took a pure-hearted delight in his like-minded new friend. I know exactly what he means. Jack, you're not wrong here. Yep, there we go, Ace groaned. Got another dud over there. They need to simmer all the way down, Grim agreed. I don't need you to get it, Jack said, brushing Deuce away. But his cheeks reddened, making his deep scowl look sweet. Jack might look scary, but he seemed easily embarrassed. Yuya had been afraid of Jack at first, but getting to know him even briefly, he could tell that he was a thoughtful person with a strong sense of duty. For instance, he could have ignored their fight with Ruggy in the courtyard and washed his hands of the whole thing. Instead, he approached them in order to help, though he had to confirm that they were trustworthy first by challenging them. He had probably been wrestling with Ruggy's crimes for a while. His honest nature was obvious. He was a little like Deuce. Yuya was amused as he regarded them sitting on the bench together. Jack spoke roughly, and his expression could be cold, but he shared Deuce's seriousness and passionate intensity. Yuya doubted everyone in their track and field club was like these two, but the fact that they had chosen that club seemed to indicate a shared nature. Anyway, Jack said, clearing his throat, these cowards in my dorm make me spitting mad. I especially can't stand our housewarden, Leona Kingscholar. Grim's nostrils flared as he growled. Do you mean that stupid jerk a part of this too? Yeah, more than a part of it, actually, Jack confirmed. He's the boss at Savanaclaw and all. I think he's moving Ruggy Bucci and the other guys like pawns. Jack crossed his arms and lowered his voice. You gotta watch out. All the stuff up to now has been nothing but practice. Leona and his gang are hunting bigger prey. Bigger prey? Yuya pouted. Jack nodded. Yep, their number one enemy's the Diasomnia Housewarden, Malleus Draconia. For 2 years running, he's trounced him in the first spell drive match. They couldn't even score. Huge embarrassment. So the older guys are trying to erase that humiliation. The way that they're doing it is despicable. Despicable, Deuce said. What are they planning on doing? Jack admitted he'd only overheard his roommates whispering. I don't know the details, he said, but I think they're going to spring something on Malleus and Team Diasomnia the day of the tournament. And I'm going to stop them. Hold up, Ace said. You don't even know the deets? Does that mean you've got no proof that Leona and them are up to no good? When Jack nodded, Ace sighed. And we're at a dead end. I mean, Ruggy was totally giving us the runaround back there, going on about how we had got no proof, and I seriously doubt Leona will give himself up just because we come asking questions again. Ace was right. Ruggy was very cautious, but Leona was the ringleader, and he would be even more prudent and clever. Vague witness reports weren't going to scare him into confessing. That's the problem, Jack agreed, scowling. He's pretty sly, and he might find a way to turn the whole thing around and come after us. Ah, Grim cried, gritting his teeth. How come everyone's so good at making excuses? It's no fair. I hate it. Glancing at the monster, Jack said, Leona King Scholar always had this attitude, like he's looking down on the whole world. He's got this incredible talent, but he refuses to use it. He was using it plenty at the spell drive game yesterday, Ace replied, frowning. That team would crush even a better team than us. You gotta be kidding me saying he wasn't serious there. That's half of what he could do if he really put his mind to it. Clenching his fist, Jack leapt to his feet. He's way better than that at spell drive. But he lets his talent rot. All he does is sleep or get up to no good. I despise guys like him. Simmer, dude, Ace said, wincing at Jack's passion. Jack shook his head, not calming down at all. The way he's played when I saw him 3 years ago, it blew my mind. He outwitted every opponent, always advancing on the goal with the disc, and it wasn't just his technique. He was so strong. He kicked the other team to the side when they came straight for him. He's such an amazing sorcerer, and people couldn't even stop talking about what a genius commander he was. Yeah, sure, Dew said, flinching at Jack's intensity. Grim hid behind Yuya's legs. Jack furrowed his brow, looking out at the setting sun. He clenched his fists in front of his chest and gritted his teeth, deeply aggravated. I thought if I came to this school, got picked for Savanaclaw dorm, he and I could tear up the spell drive field together, he said, trembling with emotion. I wanted to train hard and get him to see how good I am. And then he goes and does this? Yo, you, Ace whispered in Yuya's ear. He's pretty harsh when he talks about his house warden, but I think he actually is complimenting him? Yuya nodded. It sounded like Jack was criticizing Leona, but he was mostly talking about how great Leona was. Jack was simply mad that his hero was trying to cheat his way to victory rather than fighting for it. As far as Yuya could tell, Jack had twice the will of the average person, and he expected much more from Leona. That made his disappointment in his house warden all the more intense. He really admires him, huh? Yuya said to Ace. Ace agreed. It kind of makes me jealous how he could reject or respect his house warden that much. Respect? Ha! Jack roared. The house warden's totally chickened out. He's a loser running off with his tail between his legs. Jack's frustration made his voice crack, and he continued venomously, letting his feelings out. Don't be jealous, that guy's only thinking about himself. He doesn't give a hoot about anyone else. That's why he hatched this lily-livered plan. This garbage has really turned me sour on the whole dorm. Ah, I get it now. He let you down, so you're sulking. Is that it? Ace said. Jack glared at Ace. Say what you want, but y'all are in the same boat. Huh? Us? Ace frowned. How so? I've heard the rumors, Jack said. Your own house warden's a real piece of work, total tyrant. Ah, Yuya thought. The rumors about Riddle. Students from other dorms had been grilling Hearthstone students about him ever since the Overblood incident. Yuya had seen Ace and Deuce questioned about Riddles numerous times. How could he have overblooded? What happened? How did he look? What was Hearthstone's house warden, really just a cruel mage? Ace had deftly sidestepped questions about Riddle before, but facing Jack, it was clear he felt conflicted. Tyrant, he says, he muttered, and then he stopped, at a loss for words. Jack smiled as if to say, I told you so. You guys really think that house warden of yours is the kind of boss worth following? He asked. I'd rather strike out on my own than be stuck in a pack led by a useless idiot. Yuya believed Jack meant it. He was the sort of person who could strike out on his own and succeed. He's right, you know, Grim said, jumping in to press the point home. Riddle's a real grump. Hey, excuse you, Deuce said, rebuking Grim. Have you forgotten that just yesterday he threw himself into the investigation after Clover got hurt? For our sakes? Nah, but I mean, Ace said, frowning. It's like him doing it to save face would actually be more believable. Quit it, Ace. How does it help if you're talking like this? Deuce demanded. But Deuce also seemed uncertain, his features clouded with uneasiness. Yuya could tell that both of them had serious doubts about Riddle. Ah! Deuce cried out, turning to Yuya. You were with House Warden Rosehearts yesterday, right, you? What do you think? Is he the kind of person Jack says he is? Yesterday. The first thing that came to Yuya's mind was Riddle's angry face when he glared at the twins, Floyd and Jade Leach. Yuya had almost been beside himself with fear that a fight might break out. Then, Yuya recalled Riddle's serious tone during the investigation. He had proceeded briskly, confident and unfaltering, invested in the outcome and not in Yuya trailing after him. Last, Yuya remembered Riddle's sad voice as he expressed his desire to learn from Malleus about how to be an inspirational house warden. I don't really know, Yuya said finally. Deuce's shoulders slumped in disappointment. That's not much of an answer, Grim laughed in exasperation. Why you gotta be so you all the time? Yuya didn't know how to respond to that. It was all he could do to process his feelings. How could he describe the look on Riddle's face as he listened to Lilia? It wasn't quite jealousy, but it wasn't regret either. Yuya began, you know me, I've never been better than anyone at anything, ever. So I can't even begin to imagine how the house warden thinks. I mean, he's in such an amazing position at the top of his dorm. I was there yesterday watching him work, but I honestly had no idea what was going on in his mind. He didn't know, and he couldn't know. It was nothing more or less than that. Yu's answer was clumsy, but Deuce understood and nodded. Yeah, I get that, Yu. I mean, being the boss is the dream, but I still haven't actually led a group of people like Rosehearts. I've never even been part of a group before. He faltered and then smiled brightly. Anyway, we shouldn't project our own ideas onto something we know nothing about and go thinking the worst. Deuce's smile was so bright and wide his cheeks pushed up and started to turn purple. Yuya felt like Deuce had perfectly captured his feelings and nodded vigorously. This was exactly what he'd wanted to say. Okay, true, Ace agreed. His hard look softened as he regained his usual cheer. I guess there's no point in going on and getting our heads when the man in question isn't even here. We got no way of knowing. Yuya smiled in relief as he saw doubt in Ace and Deuce melt away. All we gotta do is ask, you know? If we want to know what's going on in Riddle's head. If it turns out he's the same old tyrant as before, we can just pop him right in the kisser again. Again? Jack stared incredulously at Ace. You guys actually punched Riddle in the face? Oh, the rumors didn't circulate about that, huh? So they circulated about everything else, but not the fact that Ace punched Riddle right in the face? I feel like that would be one of the more salacious rumors for them to be spreading around. Oh, okay, sure. I think these kiddos don't have their priorities in the right spots. Ay, ay, ay. You bet we did, Ace grinned. Might want to try it yourself if you don't like how your house warden's running the show. Anyway, we gotta tell Riddle what Jack said. How about we go meet up with him now? Ace pulled out his phone to message Cater, who responded quickly. They decided to meet in an empty lecture hall on the second floor of the main building. Jack agreed to come along to explain the situation to Riddle and Cater. There were a handful of students on their way out of the building as the group walked down the hallway, but the lecture hall itself was deserted. The room in this part of the schools weren't used by any clubs, and there was almost no one around at this hour. Once again, Yuya realized how expansive Night Raven College was. They sat down and chatted amiably until Riddle flung open the door, and he and Cater charged into the room out of breath. You found out what Ruggy's Bucci's signature spell is? Riddle asked, and then he saw Jack and exclaimed, Oh! Hello, Jack said, not smiling. I'm Jack Howell, Savanaclaw, first year. Riddle said to Jack. You're the first year Cater told me about then. I heard you were very helpful to members of my dorm yesterday. I'm grateful. And then he jumped to the heart of the matter. So, will you tell me everything? Jack agreed, and by the time he had finished his detailed explanation, Riddle was shaking with anger, as usual. How dare they try to sully such a legendary cherished event with their personal grudge, Riddle fumed. So what's the plan, Riddle? Cater asked, a serious look on his face. He placed a hand gently on Riddle's shoulder to pacify him. Looks like Savanaclaw is seriously gunning for Malleus, way harder than we thought. Who knows what they'll pull on the day of the tournament? It does look like that, Riddle mused, calm once more. But as Deuce noted, there's little we can do without any proof of their misdeeds. Okay, so then what? Where do we go now? Ace asked. We've only got one hope of beating that cunning Leona and his dorm mates, Riddle replied. We have to lock down the sole location where we know the crime will occur. Wait. So then, Deuce fell into thought before looking up abruptly. Right, the day of the spell drive tournament itself, yeah? Yes, Riddle nodded. And I have a suggestion. First, stop, Jack commanded, thrusting his palm out. I'm not joining your merry little band. Riddle glared at being interrupted. Oh, give me a break, Grim cried, deeply annoyed. You're gonna take their side? No, Jack shook his head firmly. Savanaclaw is my dorm, and I'm gonna be the one to settle this. That's all. I don't need help from any outsiders. You say that now? Deuce scowled, indignant. I overestimated you, Jack. You've come to us this far, but now you're getting cold feet? Unbelievable. I never said we were gonna be pals, Jack replied coldly. He looked at Cater and Riddle. I figured you deserved an explanation, plus an apology for yesterday. We're square now, and I'm not interested in getting any chummier. You really are a huge downer, Ace groused. He moved beyond exasperation into anger. You shoot down every little idea we have, and for what? Is settling things yourself that important? Being square that big of a deal? Maybe cool your jets and be rational for once? My jets are cool, Jack snapped, and I'm being rational when I tell you I don't need your help. How was that all? Ace glared at him. Well, we don't want your stupid help either. AC, Jackie babes, don't do this, Cater said. We got bigger fish to fry right now. But Cater's intervention didn't clear the stormy mood. Deuce stepped up to support Ace, Jack kept arguing, and Grim began to growl. Yuya turned to Riddle. This seemed like the perfect moment for him to show some leadership, but Jack's attitude was clearly rubbing him the wrong way. Riddle hated rudeness. Your attitude towards upperclassmen is very inappropriate, Riddle noted icily. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, Yuya raised his voice. I know you say you want to solve this without us, but do you really think that you can accomplish anything by yourself, Jack? He asked. Jack's eyes widened, then narrowed sharply. What did you just say? I can't do anything on my own? I'm sorry, that came out wrong, Yuya apologized. He stepped backward and licked his lips. It's just, you haven't been able to stop this on your own so far, so I was thinking, like, why keep doing things the same way? Until Riddle and everyone came along to help us, me and Grim were really stuck. We didn't know what to do, so I can kind of get how you're feeling. Jack swallowed hard as he digested this. He must have understood on some level that no matter how talented and capable a person is, there is a limit to what anyone can accomplish alone. Jack's stubborn expression cracked. Look, Grim snickered as he elbowed Yuya. Shot right through the heart, huh? Deuce and Ace also laughed. You's right, Deuce said. Going it alone hasn't worked for you so far, and you're planning to keep at it like a fool? Yeah, that, Ace nodded vigorously. If you really want to settle things with your dorm, you gotta do whatever has the best chance of stopping Leona and all of them. All this talk of we're square sounds more like ego than anything else. Okay, I did say that, but Yuya objected, his voice trailing off as a look of anguish crossed Jack's face. If being friends is the sticking point for you, then why don't you just think of it as a cooperative relationship? Yeah, you know, there's a lot of other relationships out there besides friendships. Cooperative relationship? Jack raised a curious eyebrow. Yeah, Yuya said, like an alliance or a union. Think of it like collaborating towards a shared objective. Could you get on board then? Jack was silent and didn't flinch as everyone turned to him with questioning eyes. He carefully considered the issue and wrestled with his answer before clicking his tongue loudly and scratching his head. With a sigh, he replied, All right, fine, I'll hear you out. Yuya, who had been holding his breath, let it out with a happy exhale. They weren't going to fight, after all. But I ain't communicating to anything, Jack warned. If I don't like the sound of your scheme, I'm out. Not a problem, Cater said. No worries, babe. Our man Riddle is an upright dude. No way he'd let us go astray. Music note emoji, right? Cater winked at Riddle. I'll explain my plan, Riddle said. We don't have much time. Oh man, yeah, Ace responded. With all the hub and bub, it's gotten pretty late. Yuya looked at the classroom clock. It was already 7. If Jack didn't get back to his dorm soon, people were going to be suspicious. Yes, I'll be brief, Riddle continued, his expression unchanging. After all, we still have the inquiry after this. The inquiry? Everyone chorused in confusion. What are you talking about? Cater asked. Riddle glared at both Deuce and Jack in turn. Then he said in a harsh tone, Deuce spade, jack howl. I intend to hear the reason for the bruises on your faces after we're done here. I highly doubt you would be so disobedient as to have been fighting on school grounds. Oh my riddle. That's right, they have to have a formal inquiry because they're hurt. But riddle, it was consensual. It was riddle. It was consensual. It's fine. It's fine. They didn't even really fight. They just punched each other. It's fine. The two boys were rooted to the spot under Riddle's piercing gaze. They stood frozen, ramrod straight, every muscle tense, fearing Riddle's wrath should they dare to even blink. If the bruises are due to some foolishness, Riddle warned, the corners of his mouth slowly sliding up, but his smile stopped short of his eyes. Well, you understand, yes? Yes, House Warden, Deuce stammered. Uh-huh, Jack grunted. There was no way the strict, rule-bound House Warden would forgive a personal fight at school. Deuce realized that his dreams of being an honor student was waning, and he slumped in disappointment. Okay, Let's play nice, Cater said placatingly. Jack turned towards Yuya and Ace and said under his breath, man, I thought he looked like a wuss, but your House Warden is one scary dude. He's, like, strict, or maybe, like, gives it to you straight. Anyway, different from his rep. You ain't wrong, Ace agreed, holding back a laugh. Mistake him for a friendly hedgehog and you'll quickly learn he's actually a ferocious porcupine. You have a good reason, though, Yuya said to Deuce. You'll understand once you explain. Riddle cleared his throat. Now then, he said, and the strategy meeting began. That evening, Ruggy was walking by Savanaclaw dorm lounge when Leona called out to him. He poked his head into the room and saw the House Warden with a group of dorm students. Ruggy, Leona said with a scowl, what's this I hear about you getting chased around by the Hartzlable kids at lunch? Oh, well, Ruggy stammered. You idiot, I told you 1,000 times to make sure you didn't leave any evidence behind. So he already knows, huh? Ruggy clicked his tongue silently. He'd been planning to spin the day's events somehow, but word traveled too fast. He hurriedly tried to smooth things over. You don't need to worry, boss. They've got no evidence whatsoever. Ha! I wouldn't be so sure, Leona warned, but he sounded bored. I've just been praying you idiots don't get caught by the tail before tournament day at least. His tone was sharp, and those with him flinched. Sounded like he was angry. Ruggy looked around and realized that the other students present were part of the team that had helped take out the spell-drive players. Leona had probably heard the story from them. Leona flicked his tail back and forth. I gave that Octavanel creep a serious payoff to do that job for us. You know what'll happen to you if you mess this up and make me waste all that cash, right, Ruggy? Yes, of course, Ruggy nodded slowly. Payoff, waste. He hated these words. He resolved once more to not let this chance slip away. You botch things on tournament day, I'm gonna fry you all up and eat you myself, Leona snarled. Remember that. Yes, sir, the dorm student shouted in response, and Leona's anger seemed to dissipate at last. So long as you get it, he said more gently. Relieved, the boys resumed talking, each scrambling to be heard. You just leave it to us. All we gotta do now is settle in for the tournament, said one student. Another declared, we're totally gonna have those Diasomnia hacks pleading for mercy on tournament day. I can see them crying on the field already, a third proclaimed. They looked happy, grateful to be forgiven by their boss, having forgotten the angry roaring of moments ago. Leona held the emotions of his dorm students in the palm of his hand, and Ruggy was impressed, as always. Abrupt mood swings like this kept people on their toes, a cunning trick used by pack leaders. Ruggy was confident in his ability to get by in this world, but he knew this kind of power was forever out of his reach. He automatically smiled at Leona's arrogance, and the House Warden raised a skeptical eyebrow. What? Leona demanded. Shee, Ruggy laughed. I can hardly wait for the moment when a battered Malleus Draconian kneels before you, Leona. Ruggy was sure that if anyone could do it, Leona could. After all, Leona was a king among kings. How the world will praise us when we finally defeat him. Almost no one in the slums, buried under the weight of poverty, could use magic because a talented sorcerer had no need to stay in a place like that. People like Ruggy, those who had some minor magical talent but no major power, were basically heroes there. When Ruggy had been accepted into Night Raven College, everyone in the neighborhood had celebrated. But what if Ruggy, a poor weak boy, defeated the Malleus alongside Prince Leona of the royal family? How would the people who sneered at him back then react? Just thinking about it made Ruggy's heart sore. He said, defeating Malleus, winning the Spell Drive tournament, and maybe some top corporate recruiters will even take an interest in little old hyena like me with that kind of shining record. Hyena beast people were social outcasts. Even in recent years, when the old prejudices were frowned upon, the chattering masses still looked down on hyenas as thieves who happily feasted on rotten meat. Ruggy had to make the most of his famed arcane academy, the greatest chance he'd ever get to win himself wealth and glory. When he'd gotten into Night Raven College, his grandmother had told him almost in tears, "You bring pride to us all." Since the day he was born, Ruggy's world had been nothing but seedy, sooty shabbiness. His family, his friends, they all struggled with poverty. But things were different now. Ruggy had a bright future ahead of him. Ha! Look at you all celebrating when you've only just sunk your claws into your prey. Leona laughed, bringing Ruggy back to himself with a start. Ruggy smiled to hide his embarrassment. He prided himself on being realistic. Yet with Leona, he started to dream, just like all the others. This was the enormity of Leona's power. No one could resist the lure of the scraps he was sure to leave behind. The other students happily sang the praises of their boss. Once we win the Spell Drive tournament, you're going to be the most famous of all, Housewarden Leona, one student shouted. Everyone in Sunset Savannah is going to have some second thoughts about who should be the next king, a second declared. Plenty of things in Sunset Savannah couldn't be changed. Customs, traditions, values. These might seem trivial, yet they remained in Oh my goodness, hold on. Let me just take a minute. But yeah, it's fascinating to get all this from Ruggy, because this is not something that we get in the game. But this makes all of Ruggy's actions make so much more sense. All of his internal motivations make so much more sense. And it's not something as simple as relying on the hyenas in The Lion King and like their relationship to Scar. And I think that their relationship was rather similar within that story as well, right? But yeah, it's really sad to see the prejudices just kind of lively on display for the hyenas. And it makes me kind of wonder how Ruggy actually got into Night Raven College. Because if people in the slums don't have that much magic, right? And presumably his family has been in the slums for a while, right? Or maybe something bad happened. Maybe they weren't, and then when Papa left, it went back to being in poverty. Who knows? I don't know that we'll get that level of detail. But it does make me very interested into how this happened. I don't know. But it is interesting. Anyway, plenty of things in the Sunset Savannah couldn't be changed. Customs, traditions, values. These might seem trivial, yet they remained irritating, entrenched parts of society. Just as Ruggy wanted to bring pride to his hyena family, Leona, the second-born prince, wanted to transform aspects of his order. Succession ain't got nothing to do with it ability, Leona muttered. Huh? Ruggy stared at him blankly. These words shouldn't be coming out of Leona's mouth. He shouldn't say something like that, otherwise what was all the work they were doing for? Nothing, Leona replied, sounding the same as always. Cold, proud. Not looking like he'd said what Ruggy thought he'd heard. Ruggy decided he must have been mistaken rather than doubt Leona. I'm heading to bed, Leona said. He stood up to leave the lounge, as if conquering the school's gonna. Ruggy couldn't quite catch what Leona said as he departed. Leona obviously didn't intend to make himself heard, so Ruggy decided to go back to his own room too. He'd worked hard that day, and his reward for that hard work would come soon. Ruggy felt sure that he would sleep well tonight. The howls of beasts reverberated in the damp cave as the skinny hyenas were chased away by a lion with a black mane. And here we have Scar when it's the end of the Lion King movie when the hyenas are confronting him about the lack of food. And we have Zazu making an appearance in the little rib bone cage thing. Isn't that exciting, guys? I love Zazu. Oh, Zazu, do lighten up and sing something for me with a little bounce in it. Oh, I would never have had to do this for Mufasa. What? What did you say? I'm the king. Hey, boss, we got a bone to pick with you. Scar, there's no food, there's no water, we're hungry. What are you complaining to me for, Zazu? I thought things were bad under Mufasa. What did you say? Get out! But we're still hungry. And thus ends the dream. It was dark outside, and the abundant green of before was gone. There was no longer any sign anywhere of the animals that had filled the plains, running, flying, joyous. The lion who boasted that he was king seemed to be annoyed at being compared with someone else, but instead of going out to hunt on behalf of the starving animals, or at least sympathizing with them, he simply roared his displeasure. The atmosphere was so stale and sluggish that Yuya only just now realized that this was maybe the Great Seven's king of beasts. He had seen the scar over the left eye twisted up in the yawn before, but the king of beasts was supposed to be a lion with an indomitable will, one who spared no effort to bring equality to his country. The figure before Yuya's eyes was the very opposite of the legend, apathetic and callous. The lion had gotten his long-sought throne, so why didn't he do anything for the animals around him? As Yuya watched this lion lazing about somewhere off in the distance, the scene gradually faded to white. And that is the end of the chapter. That is it. That is all we have for today. The next chapter is another like 40 pages. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through that tonight. But this has been very delightful. I love how much more information that we are getting about Ruggies and Jack specifically. Like the two of them, we're getting a lot more info for. I know we're gonna get a bunch of info for Leona, you know, obviously during the Overblot fiasco. But it's so nice to finally understand what Ruggie is doing, why Ruggie is doing it, what Ruggie is thinking when he's doing all of these things. And the same thing for Jack. We actually have properly established character motivations for the actions that the characters are undertaking, and it is so nice. And it does work very well in the novel format because you can get it from their perspective. You can hear it from their perspective. You can hear it from them. And you can kind of get that inner monologue. I think it's a little bit harder to do that in the game, but there are things that the game could have done. There are moments where they could have interspersed at least a little bit of that and given us like a little bit more of like a flashback. And I think that for Ruggie specifically, because Jack, you kind of get that when he confronts our group and starts talking to them and Riddle and all that kind of jazz. But Ruggie, for the entire time, like his motivations just don't make sense. In the game, at least to me, it doesn't seem like there's any like evidence of his motivations within the game outside of like, well, he's the hyena character and Leona's the Scar character, so obviously he has to work for Leona because that is how the Lion King functions. And there's not that deeper understanding of what Ruggie is doing, where he came from, what his goals are, and why he's doing anything for Leona. Outside of like the twisted comparison. So I really like that we're getting that info here. I like that we keep getting it too, because in the manga, you just kind of see a little bit of Ruggie's backstory in the first volume, and then that's kind of it as far as his motivations are, which is still way more effective than what we get in the game, and it's still more than what we get in the game. But here we get it multiple times, and we can see how Ruggie's starting to doubt, but we can see his hope, we can see all these sorts of things. And I really, really like that in the novel. I don't like how it is written still. It bothers me. The way that it's formatted is also bad, and I think I had this critique of the Heartstable novel too, because they justified all of the text, which causes you to have to hyphenate certain words, and sometimes they'll just hyphenate like the ly at the end of a word, which is the worst possible thing you can do when you are hyphenating text. Or they'll like, when Riddle, sometimes his name will be like Rid, and then the le will be on another line. And that's just hard to read, man. I don't understand why it's not just left aligned, and why it's left justified. I don't get it. That keeps throwing me off, and I have a hard enough time reading as it is. so like that, the layout just confuses me. I don't, and it's the same in the Heartstable novel. I went back and double checked after last time. Like I don't understand why it's justified text, but that's a nitpick on the formatting. And then yeah, the poor editing, the little mess ups here and there. Jade getting mixed up with Floyd, which I guess is kind of a canon event. But I'm starting to like it more. The first stream was really rough, and I think that, again, it's because we've gotten a lot more dialogue in the past couple chapters versus the beginning of the book, where it was just kind of like describing things and then re-describing things and then describing them for a third time within like 2 or 3 pages. So that is something as well. Starting to like it a little bit more. I think we'll get a lot more of Leona's backstory and like his emotions towards the latter chapters, like we did with Riddle. So we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Right in the game, it's just like Ruggy is following Leona just for the lulz, right? Just because he's the prince, just because of that. And in a way, there are parts of that are true, because that's kind of what he's describing in the novel, but there's more reason behind that. Like, Ruggy's not simply a gold digger. Ruggy's trying to build a better life for himself and for his community. I have no idea what I just knocked off my desk, but he's trying to do that, and it's not fully self-centered, and it's not just because he has access to Leona. He's just trying to make use of the opportunities that he has so that he can have a better life. And I don't think that that's a bad goal for him to have at all. Granted, he's going about it in a slightly bad way, and he's doing slightly illegal things. But honestly, I can't blame him all that much, given all that he has endured and suffered in his life. And also, Leona's also still a big part of it. Leona is the one giving out the orders, and Ruggy is following them, but like a lot of the brunt of the activity does still fall onto Leona. So yeah, Ruggy's allowing himself to be used, but he's doing it for the hope and for the goal, and it's very tragic because of what we all know is going to happen. But there's no way for Ruggy specifically to know that, and if Ruggy is able to, like, if all of this was to actually be able to be pulled off, then they would be sitting in a very pretty position. And they would have a lot of accolades, and they would have a lot of stuff. And in theory, there wouldn't be anything to tie it back to them unless Azul decided to squeal, but he's not exactly known for that, right? Like, Azul would have no motivation to squeal. Azul is already focused on his stuff. He doesn't particularly care about that. And then no one in Savanaclaw would, in theory, besides Jack, probably. So, yeah, Ruggy has a lot of hope, and it hurts. It really does. And you don't get, and unfortunately, in the game, you don't get to see that till Book 7. Because his dream in Book 7 is so ridiculously hopeful and so full of life. It's wild. It's wild. And it feels so much more accurate to Ruggy as a character, and at least, like, by then we actually get to have some sort of character for Ruggy, like the establishment of the reasonings and all that sort of stuff. But it's fun as always. It's very fun as always to do these little novel reading sessions. I think that they're fun. I think that they're fun, and I think that we get to have a wonderful time while we read the novels, and we get to chill, and it's great, and it's exciting. And hopefully the next stream we'll be able to finish the novel. Hopefully. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Up to which book has the novel? Just Savanaclaw. Savanaclaw is the last one that's been translated. I don't know if in Japan they have the Octagonal novel out as well, but I think they're going to be doing all of the books. I mean, that seems to be the trend. I don't think that you can stop creating the light novels. I think that maybe the chapter, like the Book 7 one would have to be more than one book. Like, you'd have to have a Book 7 novel, part 1 and part 2. How else are you gonna do that? There's too much content. But I think that their plan is to continue. I can't imagine that they would stop. Manga version of Book 7 will have like 13 volumes. Probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Book 7 had a volume for each dorm plus a beginning and an ending volume, right? So if you have the 7 dorms, And then you have 8, 9. So you have like 10 total books, roughly. Like 10, like more or less. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. But who's to say? Who's to say? I ain't doing it. I ain't the one doing all the things. People started releasing books with like 900 plus pages. I mean, they might. But I still think that they would do like a volume 1 and a volume 2 in novel format. I don't know that you can encapsulate all the craziness that happens in not Savanaclaw, in Diasomnia just in like 900 pages. Because the Heartstable novel's like 600 pages. And the Savanaclaw one, I think, is like almost 500. I can go double check. But if those novels with their limited story are already that long, then there's no way. Okay, so Savanaclaw is 340, so it's almost 400 pages. And I'm pretty sure the Heartstable novel is closer to like 500, 600. That's not that far off from 900. So, and they're also way shorter. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Only 999,000 more years. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how they decide to do things. Who's to say? Who knows? Do you want to see Lucius's dream? Oh my gosh. That'd be so fun. I would love it if they did like the staff and like RSA dreams as like little shorts or something. Or like as like additional volumes, like a magazine or something would be very fun. I don't know if we'll ever get that. I don't know. We'll see. But I think for tonight, though, this is where we're gonna leave things off on Chapter 8. We'll pick up with Chapter 9 next time, whenever that time is, and then we will go from there and hopefully get the novel done. But for tonight, I am going to say goodbye. I thank you all so much for coming and hanging out and listening to the stream and the novel and the reading and all those things. We'll be back next week with more White Rabbit Fest and then perhaps the novel reading, perhaps something else, depending on scheduling and all that good stuff. But if you are going to sleep, have a wonderful sleep. If you are going to be having a day, then have a wonderful day. And I will see you in the next one. Night's blessings. Bye-bye.